Are you spending a lot of time looking for setups and struggling for faster lap times? Are you tired of searching online for answers? Would you like to get setups, analysis and tutorials from some of the best sim racers in the world like Ralph Alla, Mitchell de Jong, Martin Krunker, Josh Rogers and many more? If so, virtualracingschool.com is the answer you've been looking for. VRS data packs provide hot laps from our professional coaches for you to analyse and replicate. They provide tutorials that walk you through the fastest laps and what the pros did to achieve the best times. And they provide the setups you need to ensure your car is competitive in both oval and road racing. If you're ready to get faster and reach more podiums sooner than later, just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a free account today.
A legendary series, legendary cars, legendary drivers, and a legendary United States road racing circuit. We are at Road Atlanta for the 5th round of the 2021 Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS season. The Road Atlanta 200 in Split 1 tonight. We've got two 25-lap races coming up just after what we have right now. The Split 2 race, 25 laps in a straight-out sprint for all of the drivers that could not make it into the top 40 over 3 days of pre-qualifying. Really looking forward to seeing how all of this plays out at one of America's top sports car racing venues. Road Atlanta has been around since 1970. And it has played host to some absolutely classic races. Of course, it's the home of the Petit Le Mans. It's got elevation changes, left and rights galore, and a brilliant series of S's descending down the hill. For SimSpeed TV, I am Reese Gardner, and joining me in the commentary box very shortly should be Mr. Jake Sperry, but we're going to have to wait a little bit to hear his dulcet tones in the commentary box, so I'm going to take you through the introduction to this round. Road Atlanta, one of the most epic racetracks I know of course located just outside Braselton in Georgia. In the heartland of stock car racing country in the American South, but certainly road racing has found an incredible home here and at places like Virginia International Raceway. Just across the road from the former Lanier National Speedway, you can see over there on the left-hand side, but Road Atlanta, the full layout that we are running. And of course, Georgia. It's gone through a few changes over the years. The hump on the back straight just before turn 8 over on the right-hand side was leveled some years into the track's existence, and in recent times the 10A and 10B chicane was added. It used to just be a straight sweeper through turn 11 under the bridge and down the hill to the start-finish straight, but it provides an excellent overtaking opportunity to be sure, and other than that, the track has gone through very little change. It's got a 410-meter run to turn 1, but turn 1, of course, very hard and sweeping. It's going to be difficult to overtake into that particular piece of the circuit. Getting a couple of questions in the broadcast chat. Race 2, it could be a fuel saver in Race 2 of Split 1, but I think the general opinion is you're probably not going to need to save any fuel. It's basically 0.1 of a lap that is the amount of fuel that would need to be saved, and you'll probably get that anyway. So we'll go through that in more detail once we get to the Split 1 race and we can start talking about pit stop strategy, because Race 2 and Split 1 has a pit stop. So the drivers just going through their final presentations here, their final preparations rather, for the first race of the night, Split 2. Michael Taliancic currently topping the practice timesheets, and there's no qualifying for this one because the grid for Split 2 is set by the time set in pre-qualifying over the last 3 days. Michael Taliancic, the only driver to get into the 1-minute 18s in this session, but he's very closely shadowed by Jamie McKnight and Benjamin Smith completing the top 3, and there's just 5 tenths covering the top 15 drivers in this session, which just goes to show again how competitive V8SCOPS is, even in this, the technical second half of the field. It's a varying roster of drivers that go through Split 2. We've got a few drivers debuting this round. Brady Baldwin is making his full-time V8SCOPS debut here in Split 2 tonight. Just managed to get in with a pre-qualifying time. And Hayden Harrison has made it into Split 1, so he's going to be making his Split 1 debut as well. On the team front, there has been a change for NSR, the former lime green Mustangs. And myself and Jake Sperry, we have certainly sung the praises of that livery. Very eye-catching, but unfortunately, we're not going to be seeing any more of it. Dylan Rudd and Aaron Dodd have moved to 9.5 SimSport, and Craig Jones has moved to Drop Bear SimSports. So, unfortunately, in a V8SCOPS sense at least, NSR is no more. Looking at the 111 there of Craig Jones in his new livery. And certainly still very eye-catching with that metallic red paint job. We've only got 20 seconds left in the practice session before we go live for 25 laps of racing. There's no fuel tank restriction, no pit stop requirement. It is just going to be an out-and-out sprint, and by virtue of running the fastest time in the bottom 40 in pre-qualifying, Tyler Blackburn is going to be starting on pole. Unfortunately, due to some server configuration issues, we are missing one driver, and that is Bruce Kiley. So, unfortunate that we won't be seeing him take to the grid tonight, but certainly hope that we can see him at future rounds, maybe even in Split 1 if he plays his cards right. Well, the practice session is over, and we're going to get ready now to go through the grid for Split 2 here at Road Atlanta. It's Tyler Blackburn on the front row with Robin Kirk, and Reese Keane and Sebastian Flock take up row 2. In 5th and 6th, it's Brady Vaughan and Benjamin Smith. 7th and 8th, Mark Newton and Christian Smart, with Josh Morris and Dion DeGraaf rounding out the top 10. Stephen Kokoschka, who was the pole sitter last time out at Oran Park, will start from 11th place with James Chastaneuf alongside him. Sean McNamara and Craig Jones, 13th and 14th. Andrew Ritchie and Andrew Mogridge, the two Andrews, sharing a row there on row 8. Bailey Frid and Michael Taliancic are going to be starting 17th and 18th. Logan Barnett and Jamie McKnight, the team boss of United SimSports, starts in 20th. Simon Chadwick and Vincent Skilbeck, 21st and 22nd, with Darren McKenzie and Troy Maguire sharing the 12th row of the grid. And it looks like the revs are rising. We usually have 3 minutes to go through the grid, but things are going very quickly here. We are green here at Road Atlanta, and it's a good start from Tyler Blackburn, but the Simrigs DPR duo of Robin Kirk and Reese Keane are holding down the rest of the field as they come into turn 1 for the first time. Benjamin Smith has to slot in there, but slight bit of contact there with Reese Keane. They managed to file into turn 3 nicely, though. Bradley Vaughan trying to sneak one up the inside, and he's almost turned Benjamin Smith around. But fortunately, unfortunately, Benjamin Smith getting really crossed up there and goes straight into Mark Newton. That creates a massive smash going into the wall there. Josh Morris, an innocent victim in all of that, as the crush goes through into turn 5. Vincent Skilbeck has been turned around on the entry to that turn as well. So a few casualties already on lap 1. But Tyler Blackburn still leading the way from DPR's Robin Kirk and Reese Keane. They have started to drop position 4 on back. Bradley Vaughan having made his way past Mark Newton. And they're too wide on the exit of turn 7. I'm seeing Craig Jones going for a run at Sebastian Flock just a bit further up the field. As we come down this back straight, the draft is going to come into play. I'm seeing Sebastian Flock there going for the move on Craig Jones down at the chicane. Just behind them, Michael Taliancic in the green Pursuit sim racing car gets it done on Andrew Ritchie. Some fantastic driving there in the first lap of this race. Lap 1 complete, and once again, oh dear, it looks like the safety car has been called. So a couple of drivers not able to get back there. It looks like both Josh Morris, Benjamin Smith, and Stephen Varga as well have all come to a stop by the side of the circuit. And what a convenient time for Jake Sperry to make his way into the commentary box. It was a pretty chaotic first lap, Mr. Sperry.
It certainly was. I haven't seen any of it, but Stephen Varga in trouble then, it seems, on the back straight with all of the work to be done there. You can see the Inside Line Productions hyperdrive machine of Josh Morris and the O32 in a world of trouble as well. Not the ideal start then to this race, as we do get ourselves under safety car, as we will catch a little look, hopefully, at some stage over what has gone on. But of course, 40 trying to put themselves into one position. We know it gets hectic off these super split 2 stars. Virtual Racing School replay then up on screen.
Indeed, it was quite a chaotic first lap there. You see Josh Morris getting taken off the circuit there with a very unfortunate run there for Benjamin Smith coming into the wall. He managed to make it up to the run out of turn 5. That's where it all started, the contact there with Bradley Vaughan, and then going into the side of Mark Newton. A great save from Newton, but it was just too much for Smith to cope with, and straight into the wall there goes Josh Morris. There.
Yeah, just like that is the trouble that we see. But now you start to get that reset period as we take a look from Varga's perspective through the smoke. He's okay through the first part, but this is where it starts to get a little bit more tricky and treacherous as he goes on through, because you're making that run now towards 6 and 7, and then you got that run all the way 10A and 10B. There was a car slow off on the inside, of course, being Josh Morris, but then trying to put the pad on the exit. This seems like a really weird one then at this moment in time, because just bang on the acceleration that the engine goes, which is a really weird place it goes.
Yeah, on the upshift coming out of turn 7, looks to me like it was just a case of damage picked up from the clutter there on the first lap, and took a little bit of time to make the engine overheat and go pop. Well, unfortunate there for all 3 drivers. They'll be our first retirements out of this race, but safety car at the moment behind Nick Parker, and hopefully we can go green very shortly. But it was a good start from Tyler Blackburn. He is getting shadowed very nicely, though, by Robin Kirk and Reese Keane, so DPR might have a shot at winning this and the golden ticket into Split 1.
Well, we know that the simrigs.com DPR team absolutely love this sort of race. There, of course, as well, Synergy Sim Racing cars looking for good opportunities out there today to make some good results of things, but we will be at least one more lap around this circuit, making sure they're okay. 25 laps, of course, of racing is not a long amount of time to make sure that you have all your faculties together as they all look to push through. And of course, the 099 Liquid Moly car will be looking for some good work on top of that as well to make progress through the field. One of the few circuits you could probably say, Reese, where you can go out there and make overtakes. It's a track which is very conducive, you would say, to these sorts of vehicles. We've seen this as a season opener. We have seen this as a round which has been an enduro in the past. This is one of those few tracks you can say that for a V8, this does pretty much everything.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mentioned in the intro, you can really make moves down at turns 10A and 10B in the chicane, and properly race a driver to the exit as well. You can try and get the crossover through that left-right sequence. Also, I think at turn 7 as well is a really good place to pull an overtake if you can line it up, but of course that leaves you open to an attack down the straight. I'm just looking at the start again because it's been mentioned that someone didn't go on the start, and that is correct. Simon Chadwick just got off to 0 momentum off the line, and that is where Stephen Varga picked up his damage. He ran straight into the back of Chadwick on the grid.
And that's not good at all. We have seen that before in the past. Drivers unable to get themselves off the line, and Simon Chadwick then finding it very difficult to make that getaway. There goes the safety car then, the brilliant Oceanic Sim Racing safety car, as it makes its progress now all the way down the back straight towards 10A and 10B. Pace in control of Blackburn then, making that run forward. And there are some names that you maybe wouldn't quite expect here in this one. Of course, we've seen Reese Keane be good, Robin Kirk both be good, but you've got Christian Smart in this race. You've got Michael Taliancic in here. Craig Jones, you may argue as well, maybe a little bit outplaced as well in this sort of race. And of course, the Super Split 2 winner last time out, James Chasanoff in the Emu Sim Racing car, is there in 10th position and will be looking to try and make some progress. But Tyler Blackburn in the Race on Oz analytical car will be looking for a good run coming out of 10B. And down the hill is the charge. We're going back to some green flag racing here as we make this charge through. We have got a wonderful charge to go through. A good enough start there. Everyone funnels back through single file on lap 5 of 25 as there goes a little look at the inside in the background. So we take a look at this one going through. That's one of the Synergy cars trying to get it all done. I believe that was Simon Vella being attacked there as Todd Parks tries to work out a way through. Hasn't quite been able to do so, at least in the early goings. So a lot more work to be done here as we make our progress through on a clean lap forward.
Yeah, Simon Vella demonstrating that he can hold the outside around turn 3. Very good job from him to defend that position. Up to turn 7 now for our leaders on the second full-on racing lap that we've got here. Blackburn holding on to the lead, but Robin Kirk and Reese Keane keeping him very close company. Looks like there might be a move for... Whoa, hang on, 3 wide. Have a look at this. It's Craig Jones, Bailey Frid, and Michael Taliancic. 2 pursuit cars on 1 drop bear car. Of course, the team change there for Craig Jones, but Bailey Frid backing out of it allows Michael Taliancic to go for the move. He holds the outside in 10A, inside for 10B, and move complete. And oh dear, contact there between Frid and Jones. And it looks like Andrew Ritchie is going to allow his way through as well.
Certainly is, and that is a comfortable one for Andrew Ritchie down the hill. It bottlenecks everyone else up behind. Now Jamie McKnight has mirrors pretty much in the side, seeing Logan Barnett there in the Frog League car trying to go down the inside then at turn number 1. Is the move picked up and scored? Well, they have to go all the way to 3 to figure this one out here through the right. McKnight just scrubbing out wide there, and the positions then all change again. So not ideal in the slightest in terms of that level of move, but the gap has really opened up here to Dion DeGraaf. So a big gap then, the front 7, it seems, breaking itself away. Sorry, the front 6 with DeGraaf in 7th. And behind that, there goes down inside of Kokoschka trying. There's Sean McNamara getting himself very busy in the early goings this week, just ahead of one Mr. Chastner, who's probably had enough of seeing over the course of this season, as we're going to try 3 wide.
Indeed, Chastaneuf trying to maintain it all, but Kokoschka cutting across the front of Sean McNamara. McNamara's going to go for the inside as Sebastian Flock gets past Mr. Chastaneuf. We have a new leader just about. That was a big move there from Robin Kirk. Looks like Flock has been shuffled out of the way there by Chastaneuf as Sean McNamara continues to try and get past Stephen Kokoschka. My goodness, that's looking messy. Over the hill as, oh, goodness me. That was Jamie McKnight getting onto the grass there over the curb at the second last turn, with Troy Maguire and Logan Barnett just up ahead of him. Virtual Racing School replay of that one. Oh, there was a bit of a clutter there at 10A and 10B. Simon Chadwick was involved in that one as well. You see he's losing his rear wing there from the starting incident.
Yeah, you can see just how cluttered it does get when you have drivers getting together, making difficulties for themselves as they charge on through. But there is second place, and Robin Kirk right now, Captain Kirk, looking to try and gain some places here with Reese Keane behind. But you've got Vaughan, you've got Newton, you've got Smart, and they're all going to try and be the clever drivers who sit and wait and use the toe and draft to their advantage to pull themselves back into this race. All about pack mentality right now, and the biggest pack of them all as we see this charge going through. There looks Reese Keane trying to get the move done on the inside, but he's not going to get there at all. The big pack right now, you'd say, is with Simon Chadwick and everybody else behind at this moment. A lot of battling going down the hill into the final couple corners. And look at this, 2 wide, 2 deep. You got Barnett there going through and a slide in the background. Then it seems for Darren McKenzie, Dazza's in a bit of trouble, and that will be nearly a 3rd position as Rich Hunter tries to get the move sorted.
Oh, an incident out of the final turn, though. You just saw Craig Jones going off the circuit. Troy Maguire and Logan Barnett are trying their best to get by him. A lock up there for Maguire. That shuffles Jones out wide. And Jamie McKnight getting involved in this as well, up the inside of Jones into turn 3. And Craig is just going to have to yield there. Around the outside doesn't always work around turn 3.
No, it's not the easiest move, I would say, in the book of tricks of making overtakes at Road Atlanta, but you sometimes have to be a brave driver if you want to try and get something sorted. So that can sometimes be the trade-off. We're on board now with Bradley Vaughan here in 4th position on the road, and he'll be thinking about pushing the 100 forward instead of looking behind. And speaking of behind, Christian Smart has got a really good attempt there on Mark Newton, but the middle finger car, no, there's Trumpers in front, and it's going to be Keane and Vaughan coming together. Vaughan gets himself back out there over the circuit, as that is not ideal at all in the slightest. I'm sure the virtual race score replay, oh hello, Taliancic and Chastaner making some friends. They go through the final corner.
Yes, indeed, and it looks like Bradley Vaughan was trying to redress that move there on Reece Keane, but Keane has been really shuffled out into the gravel trap there. We're going to take a look at this here on the Virtual Racing School replay. Everyone getting on the brakes, but it looks like Vaughan just missed his braking point and went straight into the back of the DPR car. It looks like Reece Keane has managed to get back going.
Yeah, and then we also catch this bit of too wide as well between Chastanerf and Taliancic. They went down the hill. Oh, big shepherding moment as they tried to figure it out. Keane, of course, is out there racing again still. He's now behind Chris Pellett there in 21st position. So that's definitely not ideal in the slightest. And if you just listen to the frustration that Reece Keane had when he got on the radio calling for race control, he says, I don't even have to say it right now in terms of, okay, big thing has happened, don't really have to say it, it's been an instant, but look at this for the race lead, as now Robin Kirk trying to take matters to his own hands down the hill, outside you can hold, and well held there by Tyler Blackburn. He's using every trick, as there's some drifting in the background in 5th place.
Racing for the lead between Blackburn and Kirk there, as Mark Newton is going to start to advance on these guys as they battle. Also coming into play here is Christian Smart. He's been these guys have been gifted 2 positions now, thanks to the incident between Reece Keane and Bradley Vaughan. And speaking of Vaughan, he has got Dion de Graaf just in front of him there in the background for very close company. They're running out of time, though. This race is only 25 laps long, and in just a couple laps' time, they will be at half race distance. So if they want to try and get themselves up where they want to be, time is rapidly running out. It's time for the draft down the back straight, though, for the lead once again, and all 4 of our top 4 well and truly in a line here. I'm waiting to see what Robin Kirk is going to do in the braking zone. He's seen that Tyler Blackburn has run a bit wide in 10B on a couple of occasions in this race. He'll be trying to take advantage of that again, but he stays behind in the braking zone as there goes up the inside of Dion de Graaf, Bradley Vaughan.
He does have a penalty, though, to his name, so he is in a world of hurt. And again, Taliancic and Chastanerf, and now he's got a little bit of help there in Bailey Frid. But again, Chastanerf downhill. In comes Vaughan then to take his penalty as he will go on through, as now Taliancic angling to the inside now as the top 4 really ragging on as they ride up the hill through turn number 1. But Chastanerf holding the outside, able to keep himself nicely in lane. I do feel here for Taliancic. He knows he's got a little bit of pace here in Super Split 2, but he's got pretty much a very hard fighting James Chastanerf saying absolutely not. And they're bringing Flock, Ritchie and Mogridge into this fight now as they figure out where they need to be in this race.
Indeed, there's a lot of racing going on throughout the field here as Bradley Vaughan breaks away from that pack behind, as there's a bit of contact there between Christian Smart and Stuart Crawford. Crawford manages to recover. On the subject of black flags, another driver that's been given a penalty is Brendan Nitschke. That was for an incident lap 8, turn 1. He gave Darren McKenzie a bit of a shove off the circuit. He's already served his penalty, so now he is all the way back there in 31st position.
Very easy for that to go badly. Crawford having a little talk to race control as well as the front 4 here. On to the 12th lap they go, nearly at the halfway stage. They charge. It's been supercharged up at this stage. Blackburn leading this race on the front, and I wonder here how much of a waiting game we are on at this point in time for Kirk and Newton and Smart as well. I'm sure they'll be thinking about trying to play the fuel game or the numbers game here in this one, keep themselves nicely in position to go out there, attack, and make everything work. So through the next left and trying to attack hard. You wonder here how long Tyler Blackburn will stay out there in front, and at what point you decide to put the aggressive factor on.
Yes, indeed. There's no worries about fuel in this one. There's no fuel tank restriction and no required pit stops, so the drivers can just go hell for leather at every opportunity they can over the 25 laps. But they'll be coming up to half race distance at the end of this lap, and they will have to turn the aggression dial up pretty soon if they want to try and make those moves. Our top four still well and truly together as it's side by side for 5th place. That's Sean McNamara just getting ahead of Dion de Graaf in the braking zone, and Dion pinches the brakes and goes for a spin. Stephen Kokoschka has to check up in response, so that's going to be a lot of positions lost for Dion. Oh, and makes it a bit awkward for Sebastian Flock and Andrew Ritchie on the exit of 10B.
Ritchie still having to attack then in the Emu car. Down the hill, no drive, and that is de Graaf holding back up. And that's how quickly it can all go wrong. There is a few drivers in trouble in this one. Of course, we know that Morris is out, Varga and Benjamin Smith also out, but so now is Darren McKenzie and Aaron Gilbert out of this race. So their drama's just about starting at this point in time as they crest the rise here in this battle here between Chastaner, Frid, Taliancic and Mogridge as we focus here on 8th place and make that move up forward. So the work there, but not quite close enough. Kokoschka with a shot to the back to McNamara going through just in front. And suddenly, with all of the checking up, lead me to place, here comes Chastaner. Oh, this is the easiest tantamount cookies they've had all race long. It's going to be 3 wide, and look at Fred trying to get through. This is going to end in disaster. Surely, look at Taliancic.
Oh, it's Kokoschka. He's been ping-ponged between the cars. 2 sliders there for Kokoschka and Taliancic, but they both recover. Wow, what great driving. Obviously not from what caused the incident, but the response to it.
Incredible, and Mogridge off the road. That will force de Graaf through. That will force Mogridge through. A lot of dramas as they go through. Race control definitely having a big look at that as they were 4 wide. Taliancic pushing the envelope as now here goes a look into turn number 1. Chastaner having to deal with it, and there's a big slide going through there. Dramas every which way. Sorry, that's Andrew Ritchie in the 927 having to deal with that. And the analytical race on Oscar then deciding not to go and make that move as they went on through. Big battling all over where you look.
Absolutely. Andrew Mogridge should be kicking himself a little bit for that one. He has backed off a bit though, so looks like there might be no true harm, no true foul. And race control will not be called for that one. The battle for the lead continuing though. And Blackburn, Kirk and Newton are starting to drop Christian Smart here as they come down the back stretch towards turns 10A and 10B. No big moves for the lead just yet, and that is wise. I think, you know, if you're up at this point of the field, up at the very tippy top, you don't want to be making any stupid outbraking diving moves into the braking zone. It's not going to work out well for you. You want to try and just leave it for a while before you get it done, as McNamara has some troubles on the exit of the chicane. We'll grab a Virtual Racing School replay to see what happened to him there.
Well, McNamara in a whole bit of trouble, was trying to shepherd away Bailey Frid, who just turned in on him. Frid has to go across the circuit. McNamara can't turn, and then that's the issue. Simon Chadwick as well, getting on the radio also at that point in time. So the 9.5 car's in not really a good position at all. We'll take a look at this from Taliancic's perspective as he made his way through. There you can see there's the turn, a bit of contact there. Then it just exacerbates the snap. And then Taliancic says, oh, thank you very much. I don't get those very often. 2 positions for absolutely nothing. But Chadwick as well, contact with Reese Keane, not happy either. So he's on the blower as well to a very, very busy race control, and they can see the 427. They can see the leaders though. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Tyler Blackburn has Robin Kirk for company. You get very close as they hit the brakes. It's a downhill braking zone. Gravity does not help through this section, But look at Keane trying to open this up on the exit of 10B. He's tired of waiting here. Lap 15 of 25. There'll be 10 to go as they cross the line, and he's going to have to back out of it, and that's going to put Newton into the back of him.
Oh, Mark Newton almost spinning Robin Kirk around there, and a bit of a twitch there on the grass coming into turn 1. Big uh-oh indeed. That is car number 20. That's Dion de Graaf that's been turned around on the exit of the chicane. Wondering what happened there. It looks like it was contact with Sean McNamara.
Yeah, so Dion de Graaf not happy at this stage. Race control immediately jumping on that. So McNamara and de Graaf fighting this one out for position. Both drivers who have fallen down, and if you have an issue by a little bit, you have an issue by a lot sometimes in this series. On the brakes they go, and it's a case of, well, they're in through the first corner quite nicely. The second, though, it just looks like it's never cleared properly there by the 20.
Yeah, well, I think that McNamara wasn't quite enough alongside to try and make the move stick, and it would have been dealing with a bit of understeer as well. Indeed, here comes Newton. Robin Kirk looking in trouble here for second place. Slightly defensive there. Doesn't quite leave Newton enough room on the outside to allow him alongside him. But that's given Tyler Blackburn a slight bit of breathing room.
Slight is an understatement. That was a tough move as we take a look at the virtual racing school replay here, ladies and gentlemen. This is Reese Keane diving through then on Vela, and getting the slide on as he goes into the grass and drops 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places for Reese Keane. Dramas there moving on forward, but at least the top 4 are in a good position. They've still got 8.5 seconds to Chastanov in 5th and Taliancic then in 6th position. So it really does show you how the gaps are forming from drivers who are making themselves known and available at this point in time. And, you know, this is a patience game, and suddenly Christian Smart is looking a little bit better as we look backwards to the Fusion sim racing car there moving forward. That's your neck of the woods, surely, is it, Reese? Now, as McNamara looking damaged and bruised at this stage, we'll be seeing Chris Pallett there. Well, that might be Simon Chadwick, sorry, there just in front. So Pallett trying to move forward.
Yeah, it looks like that name might need to be changed. It is Pellat, not Pallet. But Chris, of course, one of the newer additions to the Fusion sim racing team. He has to go a little bit wide in order to give Reese Keane a bit of room here. But Keane has pinched the brakes on the entry to turn 7. It is not working out well for him in this race. That allows Pellet to get away. So Pellet out there repping the brand new Fusion sim racing paint scheme there. The 999, meanwhile, Christian Smart in 4th place, really starting to pressure Mark Newton. He did have a go at Robin Kirk, did Newton, on the previous couple of laps, but he's really fallen back from the top 2 now. I think his tyres have started to give up.
Yeah, he's just starting to struggle ever so slightly. There's a battle going on towards turn 1 now as Logan Barnett then tries to go down the inside of that is going to be McNamara for position. Moves up then into 14th for the moment, but McNamara's not giving it up, but he'll have to now at turn 3. You got in front of them Maguire, McKnight struggling there through turn 4. Then you got Ritchie and Mogridge. They go down through the S's and back up again as they will move to the next left-hander out there. And I have just noticed that this Road Atlanta circuit, since the last time we have been here, Reese, has had a very nice paint job.
It has indeed. Got a texture update a couple of builds ago on the iRacing service. It now reflects how the track looks in real life with those new blue and yellow curbs. They used to be green and white on the sim. The actual scan of the track has not changed, but still, it looks very nice, up to those more modern standards. Whoa, goodness me. Big ups there for James Chastaneuf. Under pressure from Michael Taliancic in 10A and 10B. Sebastian Flock is starting to catch up to those guys in 9th place as there is a move just behind there. Goodness me, round the outside went Troy Maguire on Logan Barnett.
Yeah, that was Barnett trying to get through, so that's a good defence by Maguire as he held it off. 7 laps to go, and look at Robin Kirk descending and then cresting up the rise through towards the next left. He's trying every which way to find power, and he's got a really solid run of things right now here as it's defensive line, middle of the road driving from Tyler Blackburn. And I think Blackburn's looking at this going, well, I want Mark Newton and Christian Smart here. The more drivers that are in this train battling, the more likely it is I'm actually going to be ending up ahead. So now it becomes a question of, does he have enough on this straight through 8 to 9 and then 10A, 10B? Of course, that being reconfigured after the Probst crash in the Mazda RX-7. But there goes the move onto the outside. Has Robin Kirk got all of it sorted? He's struggling to get it turned in. He's in the grass, and he'll now fall himself back into fourth position. Mark Newton, your turn to attack for a golden ticket.
It's a shame there for Robin Kirk as Shaston fallen behind Taliancic and now under big pressure there from Bailey Frid coming out of 10A and 10B. Yeah, the problem for Robin Kirk was he just took a little bit too much speed into 10A, and that got him into the grass. Unfortunately, there's no grip out there, so he ended up losing a ton of time, but managed to get out of the way of Newton and Smart before they could make contact with him. So now, Tyler Blackburn with a little bit more breathing room up at the front, but Mark Newton is really starting to come back at him here in the MFR Liqui Moly machine. I'm looking forward to seeing how this battle pans out on the final lap, because I think it is definitely going to come down to lap 25.
Well, with a gap like this, 4 drivers split by 1.5 seconds as Keane gets all squirrely coming out of the corner behind, and that is Chadwick in trouble. Then here in the 9.5 car, and there's another car in trouble there, just over there in the distance. That McNamara. It's both of the 9.5 cars then. Sorry, no, that's Mitch Campbell, who's in trouble there. So Campbell around as well at the same place. So I wonder here if we've had a Rule 1.
Yeah, Rule 1, of course, being don't hit your teammate, but it looks like the answer is no. So we'll see, Chadwick getting shuffled wide there by one of the Synergy cars, the 134. That is Matthew Brunt. And more contact at turn 3. Off he goes. And, oh dear, nowhere to go there for his teammate.
Yeah, no matter how much contact there is a Rule 1 involved, which is don't hit your teammate. And that's why Campbell goes around as he tries to struggle his way through. Of course, Matthew Brunt's bearing the brunt there for Simon Chadwick. That wouldn't have been ideal, but up the hill now once again with 5 to go. Suddenly, Christian Smart looks like he is really coming alive in the 999, just keeping himself nicely there. Mark Newton looks like he's being very aggressive with his inputs right now as he tries to go on through these corners. But now what do you do here at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta? The charge back down the hill will come along once more, and they are just starting to give Tyler Blackburn that bit of a gap. It's now 0.7 of a second, and if Christian Smart's going to go for a race win, you'd argue he's got to make the move now.
Yeah, indeed, and he does. He switches to the inside, but he's not quite close enough to get it done there on Mark Newton. That little bit of wiggling in the mirrors might have distracted the 099, though. Remains to be seen how much that'll affect Mark going forward. But again, it's just allowed Tyler Blackburn to keep the gap, maintain it there in P1. And Robin Kirk hasn't been able to influence this battle at all. It is definitely between Newton and Smart at the moment for second.
It certainly is. And now you're starting to see how Tyler Blackburn's getting away. Newton just quietly working well. He seems good in that opening sector. That's where he is starting to just make sure that all of this race is falling into the right line as they crest the rise once more. And no, it's got all horribly shades of sideways there for Mark Newton. He's done well to hold it together. That big turn 5 curb always seems to catch out someone.
Yeah, absolutely. You can use all of that curb without getting an off-track incident point with iRacing's automated incident system, but it is, of course, very bumpy, and especially in a car like this, where it's 650 horsepower, overpowered and undertired, you definitely don't want to be using too much of it, or at the very least, make sure your car is damn straight. Meanwhile, for second place, Christian Smart almost getting into the back of Mark Newton. 10A and 10B once again showing that it's one of the more action-packed places of the racetrack. And I feel like it's only a matter of time here for Smart because, again, Blackburn is just skipping away in the lead here.
He is. That gap now up to 0.8 of a second. It's clear Mark Newton is struggling to keep touch as they go through the left and the right. Smart looking every which way now at turn 3. You still got Reese Keane there in 4th. Behind as well, it is looking pretty tasty in terms of those battles. You got Chasnov, who's lost out now to Taliancic. You got Frid and Kokoschka then going for it. Kokoschka getting a slide then, going through, and there goes Richie off into the grass and trying to gather it back together. There's Bradley Vaughan, who's going to go sweeping on by, and we'll pick one more up on the recovery. That will be 15th position there, so that's still on, but here goes again the look for Christian Smart. He's trying every time to get himself the run that he needs, but he just needs some commitment to make it happen. He's got to put the car in a position where it's 50% right now, because you're running out of laps.
Yeah, running out indeed. They're only going to have 2 to go this time by, as another hint at a move there for Christian Smart. He's just not close enough to get it done. Tyler Blackburn in the braking zone just up ahead, and oh no, that's unfortunate there for Christian Smart. It looks like a bit of traction loss coming out of 10A and 10B, so that's allowed Newton then to skip away.
It has, and the gap now down to half a second here. Newton with a 120.0 over that last lap, doing enough to effectively bridge the gap to Tyler Blackburn. So now Blackburn, who thought he was okay in a way, he very much isn't right now, and it shows with 2 laps to go. Here's some more side-by-side. Simon Vella going at it here with Andrew Ritchie as they go through the Emu car versus the KFC machine as they make that charge to go through. And behind that as well, you've also got that battle going on as Craig Jones then has Reese Keane for company. Then the Drop Bear machine is looking like it wants to be in a little bit of a scrap right now towards the end.
Indeed, and Reese Keane is looking for some redemption there. Remember, Keane did start up in 3rd and was pressuring for the leaders. Just up ahead, you see Jamie McKnight and Andrew Mogridge battling hard in turns 6 and 7. McKnight just easing up to the back of him there. He's well within draft range on the straight, so we'll see if there is a move there between them. That is for the final position in the top 10, by the way, so it'll be a good honour for either of those drivers if they can get it done. It is white flag, though, up front for Tyler Blackburn as McKnight makes it side-by-side coming into 10A. Can he get it done round the outside? Locks up. He manages to keep it stuck in there on the inside. Mogridge, though, with a better traction on the exit, manages to defend. Well, I think the lead battle is where it's certainly at the moment, because Mark Newton still has a chance here.
He certainly does. And now you start to wonder here. Blackburn, the nerves will be there on this final lap. Just got to keep it together. He struggles a little bit there up through turn number 5. Oh, sorry, turn 6 and 7 coming up now. So now you've got to wonder here as Blackburn opened the door for Mark Newton, who's trying everything here through these 2 90-degree rights here to set everything up. The charge is there, and he's not got the run. He's not got the run. He tried everything on the exit. He didn't quite keep it together. There's still a very, very sketchy braking zone at 10A to get correct. It's the last chance to make a mistake out there on track, you'd feel, here for Tyler Blackburn. It's looking like Kirk thinking about a move behind for 3rd. He's not going to get there through 10B. There's a reason why he started on pole position here, Tyler Blackburn. He has driven a masterclass under the Fox Factory Bridge and down the hill for the final time. Tyler Blackburn, welcome to the main event.
Winning from pole as well to boot. Fantastic stuff. Mark Newton did have a red-hot go at it, but you just saw on the exit of turn 7, he spun up the wheels, and that made him lose his momentum. As goodness me, it looks like Simon Chadwick in a very tight battle. Sorry, Sean McNamara, my apologies. 9.5 SimSport managing to defend from the Mustang behind of Troy Maguire and sliding across the line as Bradley Vaughan, who was the second car to get a penalty, making his way across in 15th place as it's close again behind between Synergy and DPR.
Certainly is, and there is Vincent Skillback in a very wounded Wheelie Bins Mayhem Republic machine trying to get it over the line, but there is your Super Split 2 race winner, Tyler Blackburn. Had to really work for that one, was accosted all race long, never had a gap over a second, and has done so well here today to put that together. Let's go and move then to official classified results then here in Super Split 2. Work out where everybody is going to be all situated as they finished across the line. 35 minutes and 20 seconds worth of action, and it is a gap of 4/10 then for Tyler Blackburn, the win over Mark Newton in the MFR car, with Christian Smart picking up the podium then for Synergy. Robin Kirk then finishes off in 4th, with Mike Taliancic in 5th, and James Chastanuff there in 6th position overall. Bailey Frid would pick up 7th for Pursuit, with 3 Pursuit cars inside the top 10. Sebastian Flock there in 8th, but they will be a little bit disappointed they weren't able to make more of it, with Stephen Kokoschka there in 9th. Andrew Mogridge a little bit leery over the radio, rounding out the top 10.
Yep, sealing it there over Jamie McKnight in 11th place. Logan Barnett comes home in 12th place, making up 7 positions. Sean McNamara ultimately finishes where he started in lucky 13th. Troy Maguire, one of the biggest movers in the field, with 10 places gained, up there into 14th place. Bradley Vaughan in 15th. Andrew Ritchie comes home in 16th place. Simon Vella making it 17th place from 29th, with Craig Jones in 18th. Reese Keane, unfortunately taken out by Bradley Vaughan early on, has to settle for 19th, with Matthew Brunt making up 13 positions to round out the top 20.
21st then would go to Richard Hunter, who tried to get the move done late, but didn't quite get there. Todd Parks, and he's not Pallet, he's Pallet there. Chris Pallet then in 23rd position, with Brady Baldwin 24th. Steve Jenkins there is in 25th, with Dion DeGraff. I would say tough day at the office there in 26th position. Same could be said for Vincent Skilbeck with the 091 car, with all of the work to do with the bonnet. Mitch Campbell 28th after the spin, with Stuart Crawford 29th there, along with Simon Chadwick rounding out the top 30. And Reese, I think you found retirement central.
Yeah, but not before Brenton Nitschke, the last classified finisher in 31st place. He got a penalty for contact with Darren McKenzie, who was the last car to retire. Aaron Gilbert not able to make it to the finish. Neither did Benjamin Smith, Stephen Varga, or Josh Morris. Smith, Varga, and Morris all out on the first lap.
And those, of course, being the dramas that we saw early on here in the virtual racing school V8SCOPS 2 Easy Finance Road Atlanta 200. That was Super Split 2, but we are going to be stepping aside here for just one moment with SimSpeed TV, the fallout from Split 2, the main event coming up, and the work very much being alert and done as we figure out where everyone stacks up towards the mid stages of the championship.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. Feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong, where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick. and that's what this wheel feels like.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to all the battling that is going to be going on. We've got some brilliant work here in your virtual racing school V8SCOPS 2021 season. I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside by the Southpaw racer Reese Gardner here with SimSpeed TV. Now, we find ourselves in a bit of a bridge, so to speak, between the servers going up at this point, between Splits 2 and Split 1. But, Reese, when it came to that Split 2, it was about getting everything nicely put together, at least in the early goings. We saw how you could lead from the front, you could battle hard from the front, and actually how difficult it is to get a run out of Turn 7 to make that run down to 10A, 10B.
Yeah, absolutely. Not only are you dealing with the huge amount of power these cars produce and the locked differential, but the draft doesn't seem to be very strong, so you've really got to be very close to the car in front or count on them making a mistake on turn 7 exit if you want to try and get by them. But as we saw, getting past people is another matter entirely. It actually found that a lot of drivers had a bit of a tough time trying to get a move done in 10A and 10B, particularly in the battle, I think, with... who was it? It was Andrew Mogridge trying to fend off, I think, Jamie McKnight towards the end. McKnight just couldn't get it done.
No, he couldn't. So you definitely do see just how it all puts itself into a bit of a position. But at least for the moment, though, we can turn our attentions over towards that next racing that is coming up forward. Championship standings, of course, after 4 rounds is a very interesting sight to see. You can see it is top 5 all in the hands of Trans-Tasman Racing, and by a sizable margin you would put on top of that as well. Richard Hampstead 40 points clear of Madison Down. Brady Myers currently 3rd with Maloney in 4th, Anderson then in 5th place, and these are the 5 that you would say have been the most consistent all season long, have been scoring the points all season long, but you also have to keep an eye on those in 9th and 10th, Caruso and Scott. They always have that ability to mix things up with the drop rounds. And of course, Jordan Caruso, we are getting word here from the Altus team here, Reese, that is probably going to be in a bit of a sore situation tonight, with the fact that he is rushing back from Phillip Island, trying to make sure that he can get himself in, and he might just miss the first race entirely.
Yes, Jordan Caruso's been doing some driver coaching at the Phillip Island circuit in Victoria. So, unfortunately, he's definitely not going to make race 1 at this stage, but he is going to try and make it for race 2. Hopefully we can see Jordan Caruso in the field tonight, because he's one of the guys up there that's really taking it to the Trans-Tasman quintet there of Hampstead to Anderson. Can't count out Job Stewart either. I mean, he's proven himself to be well and truly the star performer, I think, along with Andrew Gilliam for Pursuit Sim Racing, and managed to keep himself up there as well. Andrew Dyson and Adam Briggs representing DPR in 7th and 8th in the standings too. It's been a pretty good season for DPR so far.
It has. There's a little bit of a blip on the radar for Adam Briggs last time out at Oran Park. I know he was not the happiest camper in the bunch when he was leaving the circuit, but he'll be hoping that something better of things is worked out and done for the next round here at Road Atlanta. And now you start to get into I would say, the crux of the season. We are, of course, in May, and this season does run all the way towards October. So it's one of those championships that you look at and say, it's a long championship. There is a lot of work that is put in. And the other thing that drivers will be looking at is maybe if they're not getting results right at this point, they're hoping maybe for a few balance of performance changes to come in, or a change of the driving style needed for updates to the car. Of course, one of the things you have with iRacing here, Reese, is that you've never got a firm and stable, the car is set as it is. It's always moving, it's always changing, it's always evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of cars will change build on build, particularly the ones that have huge amounts of exposure and use on the service, like the NASCAR stock cars. In fact, in the build just gone, they introduced the next gen NASCAR stock cars that will be coming in real life in 2022, and they drive pretty well, in my personal opinion. But in terms of this V8, the Australian touring car, it has been one of the most adjusted cars on the iRacing service. You know, the sim drivers and plenty of real-life drivers have given feedback to iRacing about how the car handles compared to its real-life counterpart over time. And, of course, there's a lot of differing opinions on how successful that implementation has been. But certainly it's a car that it has had a lot of input from a lot of different voices. So they'll probably be hoping that there's some changes to the car over the course of the year. iRacing, of course, is always working on their tyre model. So let's see if there's another iteration of that towards the midpoint of the season.
Yep, and it's that iteration that we'll be keeping our eyes out on, as we are just a couple of minutes away now from moving into server as we all figure things out. So now what do you do as you try and push forward? What do you find in terms of that pace, and how do you figure out how to go out there and put the biggest battle available on the table? We zoom on in to Road Atlanta, Georgia, of course, on the northern side, I would say, of the circuit we've got going on, just nicely nestled in through the trees, which is quite natural you find for some of these styles of circuits here in Brazelton. But now you see just how important this track is, and these 12 turns, these 4.088 kilometers, they really are a true test, because you've got that very finicky opening section, you've got that tried and tested fast middle section, and then that overtaking place down at the end of the lap is all about commitments at the end.
Yeah, it's commitment central, this place, and all the way from turn 1 to turn 5, you are turning the wheel, and you're barely going straight at all. Down through the S's between turns 4 and 5, as we saw in Split 2. You need to use the curbs a little bit to get a bit of extra pace, but those curbs are quite harsh, and it's very easy to get the car unsettled over them. Not to mention the curb on the exit of turn 5, which we saw Mark Newton get really crossed up over in the first race here tonight. But I think the run through turns 6 and 7 is very pleasant as well. Turn 6 is a little bit quicker than it looks from the air. It's got a little bit of camber to it. And turn 7, well, you got to go all the way down into second gear, and it's very challenging to get the throttle application right. I mean, I've driven at Road Atlanta quite a bit on the iRacing service, and I have never been able to get the turn 7 exit right. It always seems that I lose out on my delta, and I can never figure out why.
Oh, trust me, Reese, if you've got problems with Delta, I've got more problems with Delta than you, buddy. That seems to be the way that it all goes forward. But at least for the moment, this Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. We're talking about Michelin actually in terms of their work that they are doing. At the moment. Of course, we all saw that video with Josh Rogers at V8SCOPS going over to the Michelin factory and keeping an eye out on how everything sorts out. And it's very important to see how many different manufacturers and companies are using sim racing now as a way to really test out the ways that they go forward. It's an important point that we're starting to see that development where the virtual is now really starting to aid and assist the reality.
Yes, indeed. And, way back when iRacing first came in 2008, even before that, when you had the likes of Grand Prix Legends in the late 90s and sims like GTR2 and R-Factor and all that sort of stuff, you never would have thought that we'd be at this stage where real-life companies are so heavily involved in sim racing and helping to both improve the quality of simulations and improve the quality of their real life products as well. And in terms of iRacing, well, they've had quite a few very nice partners over the years, and I'm looking forward to the future to see how far things advance.
Yes, and that'll be worth keeping in mind. We are just getting ourselves out there on to circuit then in the next couple moments as we take a little look at a bit of straight on there from Brad Ratu as they played chicken there, did Ratu and Maloney down there at the final section. Ratu letting out a bit of a laugh going down through there, but this is going to be a very important couple of races here. It's 25 laps here for this race once again, so same distance that they'll be having to deal with right now. And it's worth talking about pre-qual and how they got through. Richard Hamstead was someone who was on the bubble outside looking in night one, outside on the bubble looking in round two. But then when it came to the third and final day, Richard Hamstead put it on pole for pre-qualification. So if that's not a statement, he looked like he was on the outs, but he's very much in the ins.
Yes, indeed. And Cooper Webster as well, doing very well in the final stages of pre-qualifying, putting himself second overall. Ethan Warren joining him up there. Madison Down only able to manage fourth, but I say only, but when you look at the times in pre-qualifying, it is ridiculously close. Richard Hamstead's fastest time at the end of it all was a 1 minute 18.929, and if you want to get outside the 1 minute 18s, you have to go all the way to Jake Maloney in 7th. I mean, it's a matter of hundredths separating these drivers. 18 hours worth of pre-qualifying going on, and a lot of drivers will be trying their best to get that one good lap for the majority of that time.
And that one good lap, we have seen time and again, can be a huge momentum maker around this place. You're always searching for the good opportunities. There is the 37 machine out there on track, piloting around, just staving out of the way, then diving down in. It's going to be a tough track as well to get qualifying worked out. There's 15 minutes and they're all going through. And once more, it seems we will have that Zuva Unicorn out there on the car. But for how much longer, once again, we do not know. Of course, the folding of the Zuva team, or not necessarily the Zuva team, but the Zuva name out there, not ideal at all. But at least for the moment, we still have effectively this tour going on right now of the tracks for the Zuva Unicorn as it tries to push on forward.
Yeah, indeed. Zuva as a company has closed up shop, and those drivers will be looking for a new full big name sponsor to put on their cars. So we'll see how well they do in this one. We did say last round at Oran Park that it was going to be the final round for the Zuva livery, but it is still on the car, so I guess probably a bit Felipe Massa-ish, you know. Oh, hey, I'm retiring. Oh, wait a minute, I'm back for another season.
Oh, sometimes that does happen. Of course, Michael Schumacher famously came back for 3 seasons, 2010 to 2012, in the Mercedes at the time, and this is where you start to really figure out where people get their momentum, their opportunities, and feel like they have all of the makings for pace here today. Of course, pre-qualifying doesn't determine how quick everybody is going to be in terms of their actual qualifying pace, but it is Cooper Webster who is the quickest right now in this practice session. But up and down the order, there will be opportunities to go out there and score, and opportunities I'm sure that a lot of drivers are looking to try and take at this stage. 707, for example, of Tom Freer, really liking this season so far, as we had a little look there at Emily Jones in the McLaren Shadow Machine. But Tom Freer, I had a little chat with him actually a couple days ago here, Reese, and he's saying he's really enjoying his sim racing right now. He's really enjoying the fact that he's got the team behind him that is supporting him as he goes through, and that he is finding some nice results out there with a newfound mentality out there to the way he's racing.
Yes, well, he's following his former teammate out there, Andrew Gilliam, in the blue and black Mustang. But yeah, I think Tom Freer, it's good to hear that he is enjoying his sim racing more now, because I mean, nobody gets into this stuff without the aim being enjoyment. And if you lose that enjoyment, then it can really affect your motivation. It can really affect your results. So if you can find some way to keep yourself motivated in that fashion, then that is nothing but good news. Dylan Rudd, of course, with the team change to 9.5 SimSport, formerly of NSR. And Sperry, I was saying at the start of the broadcast, those NSR machines that we loved so much for their eye-catching colour scheme are unfortunately no more.
And that is a real shame. I mean, you definitely could pick them out. They look like a highlighter as they went on through, but at least for the moment, the 9.5 team pick up a really nice acquisition as they look to try and push on towards more results. And there is the 737 of Aaron Dodd as well. So this is where it gets a little tricky, coming out of the pits, figuring out where you need to be. And then, of course, that is the club line taken through turn number 4. Very difficult to get the club line all sorted there. It's a very tough place to go and get that correct. But at least for the moment, all these drivers are thinking about how they get themselves nicely together, because the track temperature out there is hot. There's no escaping the fact that track temp is hot right now here, Reese. It's 40 degrees out there on track, and when you've got 41 odd drivers looking to try and put times out there on the board as they go around, it's going to stay hot, and you're going to get a lot of track usage very quickly.
Really going to play into the start of our 15-minute qualifying session. We saw at Oran Park that a lot of drivers were having trouble really maximising their pace in the latter parts of the qualifying session because the track was getting so hot. I mean, as the track gets warmer, the sun's beating down, the racing line slicks up, the rubber gets a little bit more molten, and it means that the cars are a bit twitchier, a bit more of a tendency to understeer on entry and oversteer on exit. So if you want to get your time in, you better do it at the start of qualifying, which is no mean feat, especially here at Road Atlanta, where there's grass right by the circuit absolutely everywhere. There are 0 tarmac runoffs at this track.
Yes, and it's those 0 tarmac runoffs which create all of the dramas around this place. You have to be on it, and there is the Taipan esports car of Hayden Harrison, and of course he will get his quote-unquote baggy green as he goes through the green over at turn number 1. But he makes his debut here today in SCOPS, and we'll be looking to try and put that together on the board. And it's always nice when we see new drivers making their ways up through the ranks over to the very top and giving themselves their best accountability when it comes to the main event.
Indeed, it is his top split debut. We have seen him make a couple of appearances in Split 2, Hayden Harrison, but now he is playing with the big boys and girls. So looking forward to seeing how he manages to stack up. And on the brief subject of Zuva, we've had some clarification in the YouTube broadcast chat. Zuva isn't exactly closing, it is being merged into its parent company, Ventra IP. So technically continuing, but customers are getting moved over, and the Zuva brand's going to be run for a few more months. And they, at Zuva Racing, have a couple more plans in the works for liveries. I can't wait to see what their cars end up looking like in the next few months.
Same here, and of course, Henry James Racing. Henry King's all big stomping ground out there at the moment. Also designs all the liveries himself. And I have to say, they do look absolutely marvellous when they are out there and being run. So just keep an eye on them as they make that push forward. But now is the time to figure out championship. You are already a quarter of the way through the season. This will be the marking point for 1/3 of the championship. And it feels kind of scary to say that here. 1/3 of the championship's already gone. And how do you, I would say, take away from the first third of the championship? It's normally where you see all the drivers being at their very strongest, Reese, but you normally find it's that middle third heading to Enduros that really makes or breaks a season and sets the tone for what goes on.
Yeah, if you have a poor few opening rounds, then it can really affect your motivation going forward, and you can end up going into a real slump in the middle of the season. But some drivers can overcome that and have an excellent mid-season run, take advantage of mistakes that other drivers tend to make as season fatigue starts to set in. And once the Enduro season comes around, it's like there's a little bit more of a perk up all around in the field. You have drivers who may have done the first couple of rounds, decided that it wasn't worth continuing and pulling out of the rest of the season, come back for the Enduros and then make some appearances in the last couple rounds of the season and potentially take some points off drivers who would be fighting long term for positions in the championship.
It's these long-term positions which become the real key factors to the way that everyone tries to construct a season. And it's going to be this season that we focus on with a lot of intent, because it's the first time, I think, in a very long time where we've had a real challenge up at the top. A lot of these championships we've seen over the course of the seasons that have gone through, Reese, they've really been runaways, be it the Jared Philsell 3, or be it, say, a Madison Downs race that he went through. It was a case of a runaway. But this has all the makings of, you're not going to guarantee a race winner every single time. This is not a guarantee to go out there and get the right result together on the board. This is the sort of championship that you just have that feeling this year. It is going down to the wire.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just from these first few rounds, with how competitive the field has been on at least an individual driver level, I'm really looking forward to the middle phase of the championship, seeing which of the Trans-Tasman Racing drivers can keep up their momentum, whether or not Pursuit can get it together with Andrew Gilliam and the other drivers in that team. Mr. Gilliam, of course, up into P7 in qualifying at the moment. But I think between Richard Hampstead and Madison Down, it's going to be a very hard-fought title. And of course, we know that team orders aren't a thing at Trans-Tasman Racing. They race each other just as hard as they race everyone else. So there's going to be no quarter given by either of them.
I'll tell you what would be even more interesting, though, here, Reese, is how Enduros will change this championship, because we know traditionally that it is Hampstead and Maloney that work together, but you then start to wonder, well, how are the team pairings going to sort themselves up? Madison Down last year was teamed up, of course, with Dane Warren. That might be another thing that they look at once again. You've got Jake Burton out there, who doesn't have a teammate out there at this stage. You've got the likes there of Anderson, who will be hoping for a good, strong teammate to stay in the fight. Ethan Warren would quite like a teammate as well. It's a very, very awkward position if you're Madison Down and the team boss, because, you've got to put the best team together out there when it comes to Enduros later on in the season. And, when you've got 5 drivers up there fighting for the championship, tough decisions are going to have to be made.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't want to be in Madison Down's position coming into Enduros, trying to organise who exactly is driving with what. I mean, technically, I guess it's season. When drivers sign up, they have to submit their team along with their individual sign-up forms, and it's a maximum of 2 cars to a team in V8SCOPS. Of course, bigger racing organisations like TTR and Pursuit and Altus can have sub-teams racing under the overall banner. So driver pairings technically already worked out, but who knows? Depending on how the next few rounds work out, we might see a couple of changes with how the drivers are organised into their teams.
We very much could do, and that will be very interesting to keep our eyes on for the moment. So that, at least for the moment, is what we're keeping our focus on. The longer this season goes on, enduros, of course, have been always a key point of this championship, but now, of course, we are down to the final minute here of their practice and making sure that they have got all their faculties available for qualifying. 15 very tough, very difficult minutes will be coming up where you just put everything on the table and hope that you've got the time that works compared to everybody else. And now it's effectively put up or shut up when you get to qualifying, because you know you've got another qualifying that comes up in the next session that will be up after this. But really, if you don't set yourself a good race one, where are you going to be in terms of your mindset heading to that second race of the night? That's going to be in the back of the minds of a lot of these drivers, and they are all going to be hoping they've got a good run. I have to say, though, Cooper Webster looks cream of the crop in practice, a full quarter of a second quicker than his teammate James Scott. Oldest there, Simon Feigel's in the YouTube chat bigging up his team. And well, why wouldn't he at this point? He's got some really good drivers, which ultimately the only issue they've got is that the real world's taking them away from this SCOPS challenge.
Yes, indeed. Altus Esports drivers, of course, quite active in real-life motorsporting activities. But I think they can be very proud of what they've achieved so far this season. Yes, Trans-Tasman Racing occupy the top 5 spots in the Drivers' Championship, but as Simon says, 2 Altus wins ain't too bad. Checkered flag flying in practice, and now we jump into qualifying, and this is when the no escape rule comes into effect. Just like in real life, you can't just stop the car on the side of the track and tow it back to the pits. You have to do an in-lap and park your car in your pit box before you escape. If you don't do that, you're done in qualifying.
You certainly are. Out there on track first then is Kurt Stemberg. He is out there trying to get things sorted with Madison down, the reigning champion just behind him, and then the championship leader with the red banner over the car to tell he is championship leader, Richard Hamstead. But Stemberg, I think, will let Down and Hamstead go here. You've got Ratu out there, Shepard. It's all about searching for the right place. You want to be around drivers who are a similar pace to you, you'd feel, so that you don't get checked up around this place. And because this is a 4-kilometer circuit and you've got yourself about 41 drivers, you've got slightly less than 400 meters between each car out there on the track, which 400 meters, that's not very much at all in terms of this circuit. That is, you know, clapping your hands twice.
Yes, it's going to be quite a clutter out there on the circuit as Madison Down, the lead car, has clear air ahead of him, so he can push it to the maximum around a lap of Road Atlanta. Let's see how he does it then. Across the start-finish line, coming into turn 1. I compare it to Cops at Silverstone, but with elevation change. It's very fast, very sweeping, and then you go right up the hill. Have to nail the throttle, try and get as much momentum as you can. Aim for that tree on the inside of turn 3 on the way up, so you get a good turn-in point, and use the curb through turn 4. Then you come down through the S's. Try and use the curb as best you can. Down, probably pushing the front end a bit through there. Coming into turn 5, going all the way over the exit curb, and big corrections there as he goes over the bumps. A fantastic opening section, one of my favorites of any circuit in the world. Coming into turn 6, you have a bit of camber to help you around, and then you're straight on the brakes again into turn 7. Out there in second gear, don't use too much of that curb on the outside. And Madison Down just can have a little bit of a rest here coming down the back stretch. That hump that he's going over at the moment used to be much higher when the circuit first opened. It was graded a bit flatter a few years into the circuit's existence. And then the heavy part, the braking zone, they're using all of the brake travel here with the compression in the road as they go through the dip and try and nail it out of 10B. Use as much of the curbs you can on the exit. Keep it tight through the kink under the bridge, and then sweeping through the final turn, just lifting off the throttle slightly as he comes across the line. 1 minute 19.1 sets the pace.
It certainly does. And Hamstead, a 19.3, but James Scott up to an 18.9. Says that it is his time that everyone needs to beat. We keep an eye, of course, on Cooper Webster. A lot of drivers abandoning then their opening lap as they go through. Easy to take an off-track. Anderson gets one as he goes through over the line as Tom Freer moves up quite nicely. But here comes Webster as he makes that charge towards the line. He's looking for an 18.9 to beat, and he puts an 18.7 down on the board. There was never any doubt when it came to that work there. Cooper Webster puts it beautifully constructed on the board then, making that first time work. There is Brett Loxton. All of the HJR cars in a line. Loxton, Coxhead, Christensen and Jones all searching for their times together.
Yes, indeed. Goodness me. Brett Loxton is going to be the first over the line, 1 minute 19.9. That puts himself up to 13th place. Brett Loxton goes 24th on a 1 minute 19.932.
He does, but of course, he was actually the last one in that train, and it was Chris Coxhead, his teammate, who did the best. He's up in 13th position. There is Damien Johnstone in the JK Size Synergy Sim Racing machine. And that's another team that will be looking at its driver pairings quite intently, because I would say someone like Tom Freer should get someone like Brenton Hobson alongside, or maybe even Glenn Postlethwaite, but maybe Postlethwaite would look good. Hobson, by the way, has just moved up to 14th position. He does like this place, does Hobbo. He's out there streaming on Twitch right now, and someone who has had, in the past, a very nice 6th place finish here.
Indeed, of his many 6th place finishes. But Damien Johnstone here on the back stretch, coming over the hump, passing the DRS board, which is only active for the McLaren that iRacing has for its Formula 1 car. Down into the braking zone. The splitter just scraping against the ground, and oh, that's no good there for Johnstone. Lock up into 10A. That's completely compromised his line through there, and he's probably going to pull that straight back into the pits. Oh, no, he's going to commit to the finish of this lap, at least get a time on the board. But a 1 minute 20.559 is certainly not what he'd be looking for. 30th position.
Yeah, 30th place, so more work to be done. And you know how we were talking about for about 5 minutes or so how good Trans-Tasman have been and how dominant they've been. This is the first time this season there is no Trans-Tasman car inside the top 4. Webster and Scott are Altus, Gilliam and Gardner, of course, are pursued.
Indeed, Griffin Gardner putting in a fantastic opening campaign in this qualifying session. And Andrew Gilliam, of course, we know that his 1 lap pace is very, very good in this series. What about Brian Borg, though, for Premier Racing Team, the 017 coming to the end of a lap here. And Borgie currently classified 31st. 1 minute 23 is the time he has on the board, but that's more of an outlap sort of time. He's got a little bit of traffic towards the end of the lap, but Emily Jones is far enough ahead of him that she's not going to affect him too much. A 19.535, 13th place for Brian Borg. That is good.
That is really good, and it's clear that those Premier Racing Team cars are in for a race today. Corey Shepard is up there in 7th position on a 19.1, which is right with Myers and Downs. So they've got a lot of work then that is going on. And I tell you, the biggest shock is that Trans-Tasman team are not together in hot qualifying conditions here. Myers, of course, trying to find it. They'll have to work in the time. We're almost already halfway through this qualifying session. They are allowed to finish the laps that they start out there on circuit, so that'll be in the back of the mind as they will be charging forward. But Brady here in 6th position is really searching for some times. There's only a handful of drivers haven't put a lap time on the board. Job Stewart is one of them, and Zach Hanlon is the other. So there are still times to be found out there. But of course, the longer that they're going to be going out on the circuit, the more this track is going to be difficult for them. But because we're at 4 p.m. in sim time, this track is going to cool off the longer it goes on.
Indeed, an 18.958 there for Myers. Finally gets a Trans-Tasman car in the top 4. P3 for him. Corey Shepard to the end of a lap 2. And he sets, oh goodness me, an 18.98. Shuffles Andrew Gilliam out of the top 4 there. Another great performance for Corey Shepard. Can always count on him in qualifying. But Cooper Webster, we're hearing, is purple. Going purple on this lap. Let's see if he can improve on his current P1 time. He set an 18.6 in practice, topping that session. So let's see if he can match that here in qualifying. Across the line he comes, and there's an 18.574. Excellent time from Cooper Webster.
Where's he been all season long? With this sort of pace, if you're a quarter of a second clear of the field, you are on cloud nine. Gilliam goes third in the 201. Where's Gilliam been all season, some may argue, at this stage? Has had a torrid start to his season so far and looking for more. 93 dives into the pits there, of course, of Gardner. They're in 6th position, a namesake, of course, of our good friend Reese right here, as we keep our push on forward. There is Hobo 88 searching for times. Do want to also point out Kyle George in 14th position, having a really good qualifying along with Stemberg in 12th.
Yeah, those two guys, they're doing very well at the moment. They're smack dab in the middle of the midfield. We usually see them around the lower reaches of the top 20. So for that kind of form there for Stemberg and George, Trans-Tasman and United respectively, they'll be very happy with that. Brenton Hobson coming up to the end of a lap and elects to take it into the pits, and it's a very difficult pit entry here at Road Atlanta, which is going to come into effect in race 2. It's very difficult to slow it down there as they go through that snake down the hill.
And the issue that we've got out there on track is that Job Stewart has a throughput, and that's why he hasn't set a time yet. He's got 5:45 to get in and set a time. Otherwise, he's going from the back of the field, and that will be a nightmare for him, because it is going to be very difficult to make your way through in this sort of race when everyone's going at it. He gets back in server right now, so he's got a lot of work to find all of those times. But it is Webster, Scott, Gilliam, Myers, Shepard at this moment. Jake Burton moves up to 7th. Now, here's something I didn't expect to say today in qualifying. Madison Down is 9th. Richard Hampstead is 14th.
Goodness me. They are certainly not getting this session off to a good start, and with the track getting down to 39 degrees Celsius, at least that'll be a slight bit of reprieve for them. Hopefully they can find the time they need to get back into the top 5, maybe top 3, as Johnstone comes to start off a lap there.
Yeah, definitely looking to start a lap. Of course, you can make all those parity jokes if you want to, that all of a sudden they're getting too confident and they're trying to do a Holden Red Bull Racing maneuver, some would say, allegedly, but at least for the moment, then just struggling here out there. Andrew Dyson in the 41 simrigs.com DPR car looking for a good time. He's a little ways down the order right now. It seems like they're not quite getting everything together at this moment in time. Through the final corner, Dyson's going to go. That's a good 19.3 though. That will promote as Madison Down goes P6. Andrew Dyson jumping up to P15.
Indeed, Madison Down just crossing the line and went to P6, so that's an improvement for him, and Hampstead up to 8th. So it is an improvement, but certainly not the one they would want.
They've still got to find more out there. It's going to be very difficult to find that time. Kyle George looking like he's on a pretty good lap of things as well in the 9:10, making his way to 10A and 10B as Adam Briggs just in front. Struggling right now is Briggsy in qualifying here. He's hoping for a good run under the Fox Factory Bridge, and down they go towards that final corner. George looking to improve on his time and puts a 19.2 on the board to move to 14th. He jumps Stemberg and Dyson then with that, just behind the McLaren shadow of Emily Jones.
Yeah, Emily Jones in lucky 13th right now, and she'll be hoping to improve on that one too. We're hearing that Cooper Webster is purple in the first sector, so we might see an even further improvement from our current pole man. Josh Anderson, meanwhile, a debut race winner this season in V8SCOPS, taking the win in the second race at Sebring. Let's see what he can do. He hasn't gotten a time on the board just yet, and it's a 19.052 for him, and that P7 puts him up into P7, just behind Madison Down.
Yep, so good time there from Anderson. He's working hard. Gardner's doing well. Maloney jumps up into 9th position. Coxhead's just moved up into 14th now as well. 2:42 on the clock as they push for those times. Webster was a little bit cautious in that middle sector. Had to get around Kyle George coming out to turn 5. That would have been a cause of concern. Down through 10A and 10B. He's got Briggs in front of him again out there on track, so he'll be looking for this push, coming to get the drive, and he's using all of the tyre and the limited slip that you have with that rear as he goes through. Has he got any more in the back? Well, he's got 5,000 slower on that time there than he did in his first one. So he's putting everything possible he can down there, and he is absolutely in a world of his own. There is Jake Burton here searching for a little bit of something out there in this qualifying. He is hoping to get more than 11th position right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Burton's fastest time at the moment, a 1:19.1, and he put himself into the top 10 in practice, so he'll be looking to try and match that here as he comes into the braking zone for 10A and 10B. A nice smooth turn in, keeps it nice and smooth over the curbs, and barely any wayward behavior from the car on the exit of the corner, just avoiding getting into the grass, and that's going to be a 1:19.232 for him. That's not an improvement. He stays in 11th.
There is Job Stewart. He's got not long. He's only got 2 laps. We're down into the final 1 minute, and so Ethan Warren improving up then into 8th place with his time. So those improvements are starting to find in. Stewart then down the hill, final corner. What's he managed to put then on the books as he crosses? It's a 19.4 only there, as he will jump into 22nd position with that time. So not good enough, you would say, for Job Stewart. He needs a really good race if he is to pull himself up forward. Now Ratu searching in the Exto Gaming machine, looking towards the line. Lost a couple drivers there late on, and he's looking good in that second sector as he pushes on for it. But at least for the moment, it's about finding that time. Huge puff of smoke in front there from the Synergy car as they go through, and they're down here, Reese, to just 30 seconds.
Yep, just 30 seconds and no Trans-Tasman cars in the top 3. Brady Myers is in 4th place at the moment. The top Trans-Tasman car is Ratu. Unfortunately not able to improve there. Oh, he actually did improve there by 0.2. So good run there for Mr. Ratu.
Yep.
Lights flashing for Andrew Dyson. He is in the top 10 in the championship. He wants a fantastic qualifying here.
Certainly does. Checkered flag is out. It is Josh Anderson, the last driver across the line. Kobe Jones making a drive to the line as he looks to improve. He only finds a marginal one. Dyson making that push. Madison down sideways, can't find improvement. He gave everything to try and gain more, as Dyson's just gone P10. Whoa. With a wonderful lap by his standards. Hampstead up to an 18.9, moves up to 3rd place, beats out Andrew Gilliam for the moment. So that time definitely working out for him. Scott to the line, stays 2nd, 18.791. Good work from him. But you got Corey Shepard out there on a lap still. Kyle George, Postlethwaite improves ever so slightly with his lap time. You got Briggs out there. Latter, Lee Ellis trying to improve on P20 as he charges for the line and moves up then into P19. Here comes Briggs searching for something as he crosses the line. 19.6. Poor qualifying by his standards. Myers then will dive down into the pits. Christensen unable to improve. What about Josh Anderson, Corey Shepard, and Brian Borg just in front? So Shepard will take the pits, Borg will take his lap, and Anderson won't. Brian Borg last over the line. He's in 18th right now. Could not improve on that time. So let's get the grid up for you here, ladies and gentlemen. What a qualifying that has been, and a lot of surprises here at Road Atlanta. Some surprises we were not expecting. It's not going to be a form book style race because Altus have got themselves in a really good position. Cooper Webster then has got the number 37 by a comfortable margin on pole position. An 18.574. It's a quarter of a second clear of James Scott in 2nd. Championship leader Richard Hampstead will go from P3. Then it's Andrew Gilliam in 4th position, with the 3rd row consisting of Brady Myers and Corey Shepard, 5th and 6th position overall. Reigning champion will be going from 7th. That is Madison down as Josh Anderson for company, and it seems like the top 10 being rounded out quite a bit by Trans-Tasman. We've got Ethan Warren there in 9th, but it's the pursuit of Griffin Gardner. Good qualifying there, P10 late.
Yes, and also a good qualifying from Andrew Dyson. He is the top DPR machine in 11th place. He starts alongside Trans-Tasman's Jake Maloney in the number 29. Jake Burton and Emily Jones, good friends in real life. They share the 7th row with Chris Coxhead and Kyle George on the 8th row, 15th and 16th. It's Kurt Stemberg and Brian Borg in 17th and 18th, with Lee Ellis and Tom Freer rounding out the top 20.
Yeah, now into 21st position is Jordan Ross with Job Stewart just behind there in 22nd. Struggled late with qualifying. Synergy. They look out the 12th row. Glenn Postlethwaite just ahead then of Damien Johnstone with that effort. Bradley Ratu goes from 25th then in the Exto Gaming car with Aaron Dodd for 9.5 in 26th place. Hobo 88, it's been a far cry from 6th places for him over the last couple of years. He starts this one from 27th with Adam Briggs then in a very disappointing 28th position in the DPR car. Dylan Rudd 29th with Zach Hanlon there in 30th.
Toby Jones starts from 31st alongside our Split 2 winner, the 947 of Tyler Blackburn. Just behind them, Ben Christensen and Kenneth Latter sharing the 17th row, with Corey Preston making his 100th V8SCOPS race start. He's going to start alongside Sean Linsell on row 18. Brett Loxton and Damon Mulqueen in 37th and 38th, with 39th Hayden Harrison and Justin Wallace rounding out our 40-car field. This is going to be very exciting.
It certainly is. It is going to be a very important battle, and you can see just how far they stack back up the hill in terms of their qualifying positions. 25 laps, of course. No need to take a pit stop here today as they figure it out. You've got Gilliam there in 4th position, who will look very, very feisty in terms of this one. And, of course, pretty much making a big splash right now. Very similar, I would say, to a 2019 Cam Waters is Corey Shepard. He'll be certainly looking to try and make his name known in the Mr. Antenna Premier Racing Team car. I'd say he's someone that all these teams will be keeping an eye out on in 2022. Try and get him into their team. But now what can you do? There will be a lot of drivers searching for the big result. We've seen how easily safety cars can encroach up here in these sorts of sessions. They will have 10 seconds then before the lights will come on here at the Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. This is an important point of the season. This is about form. How do you get it at this stage? Webster in control at the front. The lights are on. Barney the flagman is ready. And we here for round 5 of SCOPS here with your Road Atlanta 200. It will be going off right now as they get themselves underway. It's a slow start from Webster. Hampstead takes to the grass to try and get around. Contacts they go through. Good start there as they go through. Brady Myers is up to 2nd position as they funnel in towards turn number 1. Hampstead's still there. Scott's got the run that he wants, and they're 3 wide in the middle. A little bit of argy-bargy as they go through. That was Gardner, Dyson and Maloney as they made their charge up the hill in towards turn 3 for the first time. And now Webster gets through then on what is going to be Corey Shepard. They charge down the hill. Good start there at the front.
Yeah, not a good start for Cooper Webster, though. Starting from pole, he got the wheels spun up a bit too much as the field files through turn 5. No incidents at turn 1, which is good to see, and they've made it halfway around the lap without any big incidents. That's what we want to see here. Andrew Gilliam trying his best to get a run on Madison down, but the reigning champion getting a good run out of turn 7. There's puffs of smoke throughout the field, but amazingly, it looks like everyone's keeping it clean.
Yeah, it's all brake dust at the moment, and it's really showing the mid-pack looking strong. Now look at this. There's a lot of bump drafting going on at this stage here. You've got the likes of Anderson trying to get through Gilliam and Warren as they hit the brakes and go through. A change for 3rd position. Contact between Gilliam and Josh Anderson. Anderson has to go across the middle. They're going to fan around him as they go up the Fox Factory Bridge and under it as they go by. So big troubles. He's got a big slowdown penalty he's trying to serve. Jones is going to have to check up, and now you've got likes of Coxhead trying to go through. Oh, it's going to be so difficult for Anderson. This is where it hurts, and it's death by paper cut. But the battle's still going on as they go all the way up through. Webster, of course, got through on Hampstead for 3rd place, and he is really motivated at this stage to prove the worth at this stage after a poor start to this one.
He made a very good move on Richard Hampstead down at 10A and 10B. Aggressive but clean overtaking manoeuvre. We're on board with Corey Shepard. He currently holds P5 and he's looking at the back end of the championship leader here. And Trans-Tasman Racing, I think a little bit out of sorts in this round. They're not used to having this much work to do. Of course, you do have to give props to Brady Myers for making his way up into second. He's holding it off very nicely versus Cooper Webster, but here's where the draft comes into play once again as Shepard chases down Hampstead. I don't think he's going to be close enough for a move at 10A and 10B this time round, so no changes for position there in the top 5, but they've started to break away from the rest of the field.
They certainly have. Redress orders come in for Brad Ratu to fall back behind Kyle George out there on track, but there is Corey Shepard trying to work away to 4th position here against Richard Hampstead. The battle on in front right now. His best finish, Corey Shepard, P7 at Sebring. Surprising to say for a driver who has been right up there and knocking on the door of these sorts of results, but up there in 5th position right now is his best at this point in time, and more work to be done as they go through. Keep an eye out, though, on where the main contenders are going to be. Oh, no, that's Borgy in trouble then as he goes through. The Bry Borg himself with heavy damage.
And the virtual racing school replay will tell us the full story of that one. Brian Borg missing the front end of his car. And there was a bit of a cluster there coming into turn 1. We got Lee Ellis along with Job Stewart and Jordan Ross there. But, oh, goodness me, it looks like contact with the Trans-Tasman. Yes.
That's the bit that will hurt. Lee Ellis lost it, and that was all that. Now, the 98's gone for a big slide. That's Corey Preston trying to get it all sorted together as they went on through. But let's take a look at this from Lee Ellis's perspective then, as it's just a case of grass on the exit and trying to gather it up. It was like trying to wrestle an octopus when you're out of shape in these machines, and ultimately nothing doing. But it's so on for P2. It's Brady Myers who's having to look. He hasn't got his first win of his career so far, as Joe Stewart still side by side here, fighting it out with Josh Anderson. But at least near the front, it is getting really dicey. A move then for what is Andrew Dyson on Ethan Warren now. They're side by side as they go up towards this next section. Dyson has to lift out of it. That checks up one Mr. Griffin Gardner, and that will mean that Burton's through, and there's no room for Maloney.
Yeah, this is very close racing here in the midfield. Aaron Dodd has been on the blow at a race control. It looks like there was contact between him and Zachary Hanlon at turn 10A, so Hanlon might have a penalty coming his way very shortly, but this is super close here as we focus on Emily Jones right in the middle of this battle pack. It's headed up by Andrew Dyson. He's got a bit of a gap ahead there to Ethan Warren, but there's going to be big drafting here on the back stretch. Are there any moves that are going to be made into 10A? It looks like for Cooper Webster, he's lining up a move here on Brady Myers, tries to get up the inside, but has to back out of it. Brady does react, though, locks up, and there we go, the crossover from Cooper Webster. He's going to be on the inside coming into the final turn. How hard is Myers going to push this one? He has to back out of it.
I think they came together slightly. He was unsettled as he went on through the corner, and no, there wasn't even. They were wing mirror to wing mirror, and he just couldn't get the turn in. So that is Webster moving himself up into second position. That is Lee Ellis, then very slow as we take a look at the virtual racing score replay then, see exactly how that one has all come about. And now all of a sudden, with that slow showcase they go on through, they can see, oh, that looks like netcode every month of Sundays. Big back end steps out. Does anybody get caught up in it? Oh, thread the needle, why don't you? What slow-mo work?
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Not so fantastic for Lee Ellis, obviously. He's not had a good start to this one in the first 5 laps of this race. So Corey Shepard now has Brady Myers as his target. Richard Hampstead was able to get by Myers on the run up to turn 1 with the momentum that Myers lost out of the final turn in his battle with Cooper Webster. Again, doesn't look like they're close enough for any moves to be made. You have to be within a car length or so of the car ahead when you're halfway down the straight if you want to try and get a move done at 10A. That's a great shot, just showing what goes on as, goodness me, Jake Maloney, he ran a bit wide there in 10A and could potentially leave the door open to Griffin Gardner. No. Ends up having to back out of it, does the 93. That has compressed Maloney, Gardner, and Emily Jones. And Chris Coxhead is looking to try and get in on this as well.
Well, why not? Leading HJR car out there is Chris Coxhead. As you got Emily Jones there, Gardner, Maloney, and they're losing ground to Burton and Dyson and co. And they're starting to string out then. Madison down, getting on the back of Corey Shepard then. in 6th place also. So all of this is going on at this point in time where they're all trying to sort out where they need to be. You got Myers there in 4th, Hampstead currently in 3rd, and Hampstead will be very happy with where he is right now. He's only losing ground to drivers that he would feel have used a few drop rounds available, so his championship lead still very much preserved, and in fact you would say extending at this point in time as Burton gets a really good run coming out of 7. Andrew Dyson, well, look out simrigs.com DPR, this could be a move.
Indeed it could. Let's see if Dyson goes defensive into 10A. If you're around the outside in 10A, you can stick it up the inside the 10B, but it doesn't look like Dyson's going to make it too difficult here for Jake Burton. Outbraking maneuver from the number 8, and he is ahead by the time they get to the apex. Meanwhile, that's a problem there for Myers. Yeah, he's had further issues. Corey Shepard's managed to get past him.
He was battling with what was going to be Shepard. They came together, and I don't quite know where Corey Shepard's supposed to go there for Brady Myers. He doesn't quite leave enough room on turn-in, and Corey Shepard just kept the nose there and said, no, I'm not doing anything. You can see down on the brakes, Shepard's well alongside the A-pillar, and that is well out of shape for Brady Myers as he tries to keep himself back going out there on track. It does cost him a couple of places. He now falls behind Madison Down, who moves into the top 5. Suddenly, Andrew Gilliam now has a spark.
Indeed, he does, and he's going to have a proper run here, but that was very wide out of turn 5 for Andrew Dyson. Almost gave the opportunity to Jake Maloney, and it looks like he's a bit of a cork in the bottle now that he's been passed by Jake Burton. These 5 cars all in a line: Dyson, Maloney, Gardner, Jones, and Coxhead.
They are, and they will be all searching for those overtakes as swiftly as they possibly can, but they're in the draft train, which means they're not necessarily all gaining on each other. Dyson now has to look out and be careful because there goes Maloney to the inside. A nice block pass through the corner. It checks up Dyson. Suddenly Gardner now will ultimately start the freight training process down the inside, and Dyson effectively getting bullied, you'd say at this point, covering back to the inside. He wants to fight back. Jones searching for every which way to try and make a move, but she can't quite get there at this stage. But Griffin Gardner, that was a very, very nice move down the hill, and Coxhead searching and probing about there in the back as well.
Indeed, they managed to stay nice and line astern through turn 3. And meanwhile, up the front, it looks like Cooper Webster starting to gain a bit here on James Scott. The Altus duo are dropping Richard Hampstead in 3rd place at the moment, but Dyson is still going to have to look out here versus Emily Jones. She's going to line up a good run down the straight. It's a bit too much curb, I think, for Andrew Dyson in turn 6.
Yeah, and it's that curb again you have to be careful of. If you're being a little bit too aggressive around here, it's very easy that you can run yourself into a few troubles. So that'll be worth keeping in mind, at least the longer that this race does go on. And it's going to be a case of nobody making a move then. There is Madison Down, the number 1, trying to get close. There is no move into 10A, 10B again as we keep that focus, eyes on the mid-pack, starting to get itself formed up. But Mads getting a really strong run here against Corey Shepard. Looks to the inside at turn 1, and Corey's going to let him have it here because that is a very, very accomplished pass from the reigning champion.
Speaking of Corey Shepard, there's been news from Race Control. No further action on the incident between Shepard and Myers. So they just saw it as a racing incident, as we did up here in the commentary box. So Corey Shepard can live to fight another day. He won't be making a tour through the pits just yet. But he's still holding on really well, and it's going to be round 2 between Shepard and Myers very shortly if Myers can keep up this pace. Looks like Andrew Gilliam just hasn't been able to keep up with the 22.
Yeah, and that definitely seems to be the case, so it's all about keeping up. 3-car scrap now. You've got Ethan Warren and Andrew Gilliam also trying to get through and keep themselves nice and dandy at this moment. Down the back straight they come along, and it is a descent from the highest point of the circuit there, turn 6 and 7, and little think about the race lead for Cooper Webster. They've got to do so in such a way that it doesn't bring Hampstead into play. Those 3 behind not able to make that move on lap 9, but you got Emily Jones side by side with Andrew Dyson trying to take the road hard, travelled around the outside. She can't get it done. Suddenly, hello, Chris Coxhead down the inside is going to pick one up. And is it going to be followed by Josh Anderson on the recovery? Not for the moment yet, but the McLaren Shadow looking like it's very much in the shadows at the moment, in the grass, fighting 1-2 times. Emily Jones does, and she still fights around the outside. What bravado!
Excellent stuff there, and great car control from Emily Jones as well. It's very easy to lose one of these cars on the grass with the power they produce and how much weight and how little tyre grip they have. But yeah, unfortunate that she's lost 2 positions out of that one, trying to gain one on Andrew Dyson. But it's worked out pretty well for Chris Coxhead. He's managed to work his way up into 13th place now.
Yeah, and it's that 13th place which is doing quite a few wonders at this point in time. We've only seen the 2 retirements, Aaron Dodd and Brian Borg, the only retirees so far, and Anderson now full focus as he tries to get Chris Coxhead, the next driver on his list. Coxhead in the Zuva car, the 208. When is this move going to happen, if at all? It's going to be a little move outside. It will be under brakes, you'll see here. How late can you go? Just lisking through on the inside, and Coxhead covers it up. Little tap to the back of Emily Jones there from Job Stewart, trying to recover his way down the field. And there is Adam Briggs in a scrap, and there is the 999 5 car in a scrap with Brad Ratu.
Indeed, this is a 3-way battle here. Further down in the field, Kyle George at the like quite a long way up ahead of the road, as Ratu trying to have to defend here from Kobe Jones, one of the Henry James Racing crew, and that's big oversteer there for Ratu on the exit of turn 1. Unfortunately, Jones is not able to take advantage of it, but I tell you what, the battle just up ahead of them is looking to be really heating up. Adam Briggs has dropped the synergy duo of Damian Johnstone and Brenton Hobson, and Kyle George really looking to try and take advantage of this one.
Certainly is. And Kyle George, of course, started 16th. He's down 8 places. Has to really work now to move his way back up through the field. And I'm sure a lot of drivers are working on moving up as we speak. Another little look for the race lead for Cooper Webster down there at 10A, 10B. He's just angling for those eyes. Of course, there's no team orders, so to speak, but it's clear that Cooper Webster's got pace and he wants to go out there and use it. He dropped down to 5th. He recovered his way back through. Look how close they go over the stripe as they make things happen. Webster there in 2nd. Now, I wonder here, with how much Webster can race this season, if he's thinking about James Scott as a more long-term viable solution for the championship.
Yes, indeed. This fight for the lead between the 2 Logitech GL2C sports cars, I think they're just holding station at the moment. They don't want to get in each other's way too much because they're doing a pretty good job at keeping Richard Hampstead behind. He is not able to make any inroads on them whatsoever as Emily Jones continues in her hot pursuit of Job Stewart. Chris Coxhead, of course, just up ahead of them. Job Stewart just up ahead of Emily Jones. Words, I can do those as well. But she'll have to wait until the back stretch for a proper run here. See if she can get close out in the exit of turn 7. And confirming the question from the broadcast chat, there is no pit stop in this race. There's no fuel tank restrictions or compulsory stops at all.
Redress.
We're thinking there will be one in race 2. There we go indeed.
So this will be a redress for Job Stewart. They made contact through turn 11 under the Fox Factory Bridge. So that now for Emily Jones, she'll get the position back, and Job Stewart's just got to do it all over again. So that work's going to be difficult. Dyson has Anderson now for a bit of company as they make their push through. And also, you now have Brady Myers all over the back of Corey Shepard. So the work for a first top 5 is there, but look at how aggressive it is in the mid-pack right now. Wonderful scrapping we got going on. You got Ratu there, you got that very battered analytical 947 machine of Tyler Blackburn, our Super Split 2 winner. Work to be done right now is in 31st position in the middle of where they are, and there is Hayden Harrison on debut trying to find a way through as well.
Indeed, it's Corey Preston who is the Exto Gaming car up at the front of this pack. And
they've changed for the lead as well.
Oh yes, actually, change for the lead. James Scott has allowed Cooper Webster by, and looks like that was actually a move down at 10A and 10B on the previous lap, so lead change there, and they're looking pretty happy with themselves here at Logitech G and Astro Gaming Altus Esports side by side on the run into the chicane, and Scott was not going to fight that one.
No, they were always going to leave each other room there, so James Scott will be quite comfortable with that one being finished off then here at Road Atlanta. It's a very important battle now, side by side, as Dyson here and Anderson trying to figure it out between each other. Dyson's not going to have as much of a run under the Fox Factory Bridge as they work towards that opening corner next after this final sweeper down the hill. You got Coxhead on the back now, Jones, Stewart and Stemberg, with Jordan Ross and maybe Tom Freer as well in the party. It's all very, very close, and Andrew Dyson here, well, he's going to have to try everything in the remaining 11 laps of this race to keep everybody behind. He's been going backwards the time that we've seen him after what was a pretty good start.
Yeah, indeed. He won't be too happy with that. But Dyson continuing to try and hold on here to any kind of place. He has been just gradually slipping back, has Dyson. It looks like, at least in this train, there's not going to be any change for the next couple of laps. We're going to have to keep an eye out on that, though, as we check out through the rest of the field. Anderson having a bit of trouble breaking away from that pack.
Definitely struggling to break away a little bit, but there is still time on the horizon for him. Next up then on the list will be Griffin Gardner, and of course this is a draft central circuit, so it does take a little bit to go out there and to break away in these sorts of races. It can very easily be one that's difficult to get, but there is Brady Myers in 6th place, Corey Shepard in 5th. You'd say that two of these drivers who you would probably earmark for the future, maybe 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line maybe, as potential champions if they stick at it. But, you know, this is a really, really tough battle between these two as they descend and then take the next rise up to the next left then, of course. And as they figure it out over that big, big curve, they've now got to really put the eyes down and focus. Corey Shepard just in the fringes of Madison down, and Madison's giving everything right now. He is bringing that gap down here as we focus now on Jake Burton in that Virtual Racing School 8, because that is Jake Maloney who has gone through on this lap.
Indeed, Jake Maloney now up into 9th place. So very good performance from the number 29, but looks like Burton's got a good draft here on Maloney down the back stretch, and he's going to have the run coming into the braking zone through the sweeper of turn 9. Burton going to move to the inside, potentially. No, he's actually going to stay behind on this particular occasion, but I think he is just going to be sizing up a move towards the very end of this race, and we should clarify. Apparently, race control have confirmed that there isn't going to be a fuel restriction in race 2. So I apologise for that misinformation. From the information I was given, there was going to be a 65% restriction, but it looks like that's no longer the case now.
Definitely not the case. Worth noting as well, Ethan Warren is through on Andrew Gilliam, did so about 4 laps ago, as this is a really feisty train out there right now behind Andrew Dyson. You got Coxhead, you got Jones and Stewart, nose to tail down the S's and back up the hill once again. Stemberg and Ross are there, just keeping their eyes peeled in the final 10 laps of this race, because there are no guarantees when it comes to sim racing. It can very easily fall off the road as quickly as you have it there to gain places. So work still definitely there to be done and there to be had, but they've got to be aggressive now, because we are in that crunch time period here of this race.
Yep, crunch time indeed, with only 10 laps to go. Cooper Webster continuing to hold on well to the race lead, under no threat from his teammate James Scott, certainly under no threat from championship leader Richard Hamstead, on board behind the McLaren shadow of Emily Jones. Job Stewart working out really nicely in this battle pack. He's made some really good advances in this race. He started outside the top 20 and is now up into 16th. So I think he can be very happy with his performance, even if he crosses the line in the position he's in. But I think all of these drivers will be thinking, well, Andrew Dyson is getting to be a bit of a thorn in our sides at the moment. Check out the battle pack behind. Glenn Postlethwaite, Damian Johnstone, and Brenton Hobson, a trio of synergy cars trying to keep Kyle George at bay.
Yes, and you've got Adam Briggs there just in front also. So they're working together. Very similar pace then at Synergy Sim Racing, it seems, as Postlethwaite and Johnston and Hobson all look to try and deal with their representative races. But look at this. There goes Chris Coxhead round the outside to pick that one off. Wonderfully concocted overtake. It was all done up the hill after a mistake from Dyson over that big curve as he went on through the back, stepping out. He went through the grass and there was not much more he could do, but now he's pushing down the straight, Coxhead, because he wants to break from Emily Jones and co behind. That would be the ideal here for Andrew Dyson. He's not going to go look for the move, at least not yet, but there is still that time on the horizon to make that happen here, as Coxhead very much will be looking in the mirrors.
Yeah, he certainly will. Dyson may very well have lost the position, but he knows that he has the capability to get it back, especially with how draft heavy the back straight can be. As long as he can stay within touch of Chris Coxhead, then he might be able to go for another move in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, and it's that move that we see. Coxhead pushes it a little wide as Burton and Maloney now still together. You got in the background as well Griffin Gardner, who is just trying to keep everything honest at this point in time with the number 93. So there is still that to come along as well, that focus then towards the end. And still Brady Myers is staring at the back of the Mr. Antenna Premier Racing Team car of Corey Shepard, and it's just a staring game at this stage. Nothing you can do about it except watch and look and wait and hope that there is going to be a move. He's really closing it down though on this straight, but again, he's not quite in a position to attack at the apex of 10A and 10B.
Yeah, not quite, but I mean, if he can be within a car length or so of Shepard on the exit of turn 7, then he might just have a chance. It is difficult though to follow a car through that opening half of the lap. Not so much for aero push reasons, but rather because the turns are just so winding and you got to hit your marks perfectly. Webster and Scott at the front of the field meanwhile, under 0.4 of a second between them, but they're continuing to drive as cleanly as they always have. It has been a supreme performance from those two. For Zach Hanlon, though, their teammate, he is in a bit of drama there. He did have a penalty hanging over his head, potentially, but it doesn't look like that's the case now. It has to go wide out of the final turn, and my goodness, is that Hayden Harrison going up the inside of both of them coming into turn 1. The crush happens, and old Hanlon goes off.
Yeah, Sean Linsell nowhere to go into a Taipan Ultra sandwich like Panera Bread, and it's not definitely ideal there as they go on through there. So a bit of dramas as they went through and tried to work it all out, but ultimately that's not the ideal as they get and figure things through. Burton looking really feisty with Maloney here and trying to push on the back, it seems. Let's work together. Let's try and go forward, shall we? On the brakes they go. 7 laps remaining here in this race, and not able to make a move then is Burton, who's just trying to stay calm and keep everything nicely in check. Worth noting, James Scott's not fallen away here from Cooper Webster, still very much keeping this race entirely honest.
Indeed, it has been an honest race between those two Altus guys up at the front, and you know, like I said, it's been a commanding performance from the both of them. Yes, Webster didn't get off to the best start, but he very quickly made his way back up to the front, and he can be very happy with where he is at the moment. But Burton and Maloney continuing to shadow each other. Griffin Gardner just sitting in the background, hoping that they come together and he can gain 2 spots.
Yep, and it's those 2 spots that you keep a very firm eye out on then as they continue their scrap. Still, of course, on for the top 5, Corey Shepard versus Brady Myers. Still, of course, on for the race lead in some respects. And you could also say in other respects, Madison Down keeping the championship leader honest then in Richard Hampstead. So a lot going on. Here comes the move for Brady Myers. He'll have to do it on the outside to break the heart of Corey Shepard for a top 5. But as they go through the left and the right, Shepard's got to leave enough room on the outside. He will put the power down earlier then as he uses the outer parabola. But now as they descend down the hill, he's just got to be so brave through this section. Myers going to send it to the inside and take the road as well. There's not much you can do there as Corey Shepard. He will have to lose the place.
Yeah, but good clean move from Brady Myers to get it done. And looking a bit further back, right behind Emily Jones, Job Stewart once again. It looks like Jones is really starting to gain on Andrew Dyson. Now you can actually see the brake lights of the Mustang through the windscreen of the Commodore. Chris Coxhead hasn't quite dropped this pack either, so it shows that Andrew Dyson can still extract quite a bit of pace out of this thing.
He can. That simrigs.com DPR Mustang doing a lot of work to keep behind the McLaren shadow of Emily Jones. You've got Job Stewart, you've got Kurt Stemberg, you've got Jordan Ross, and Tom Freer is joining the party as well on the back. A 7-car train of fantastic proportions as they race it out really aggressively here on lap 21 of 25. Through turn 7 they go, and onto the back straight. Stewart just losing out a little bit there, trying to put the power down, and now it's about who's got a run, if any.
If any, indeed. It looks like Emily Jones does have a slight run on Andrew Dyson, but Dyson is gaining on Coxhead at the same time. Jones trying to pull out there, but it's Dyson who's going to be the one who pulls out on Coxhead and gets back the position there for 13th. So Dyson doing what I figured he was going to do, wait for a bit and then pull the move on Coxhead. And Chris is running a little bit wide there through the penultimate turn, but Jones not able to take advantage. That's checked her back up into Job Stewart though, and Kurt Stenberg wants to try and get it on this as Stewart goes for the move at turn 1. Almost contact between he and Emily Jones. You could barely put a hair between them.
The issue there for Emily Jones is she got unsettled coming out of 10B by Job Stewart, so that move was never going to be on for Emily as she had to look behind, and all of that battling continues out there on circuit. Top 4 starting to close all of a sudden. James Scott is fading. Hampstead's closing in right now with 4 to go as we focus still on this very, very large pack in the middle. I wonder if we can get a little look. Yes, we do. That's the top 4 right now. And it seems late pace is really working here for Trans-Tasman.
Yeah, well, that's consistent with what we've seen from them over the course of this season so far. Altus has typically been very good in the early stages of races, but the TTR cars come back in the later stages. So let's see if James Scott can hold on to this and pull off an Altus 1-2, as it looks like Burton has finally made his way past Maloney.
Certainly has down the inside 10A, 10B. Textbook overtake from Jake Burton, and now he'll be looking a little bit behind then at this one because Maloney will want to strike back. 3 laps to go here at this Road Atlanta circuit. One more race coming up after this, another sprint race in the book, so definitely all there to be taken right now. And there is a change of position. Corey Shepard back through then on Brady Myers, and that is Myers getting it heavily out of shape under brakes into one. You're going to see here, he's going to grab the grass under braking. He really fights it into the corner. He will have to scrub all his speed, and suddenly Corey Shepard goes, oh, top 5. That's exactly what I wanted here today. Down the inside at turn 3. Thank you very much.
Yeah, excellent stuff there from Corey Shepard to take advantage of that mistake from Brady, but I think Myers is going to be kicking himself for that one. He would like to make it full-on top 5 for 3 of the Trans-Tasman racing machines, but with only 2 laps to go when they cross the line next, looks like James Scott still holding on to that second place. Richard Hampstead took 3/10 out of him on the last lap. What's it going to be like this time? 20.156 for Scott, and for Hampstead, a 20.058. So still gaining as Emily Jones and Chris Coxhead side by side in 10A and 10B. Jones gets the position there, and trying to take advantage now is Job Stewart. Cannot get it done though. Kurt Stenberg makes it up the inside, and there's contact between Stenberg and Stewart in the final turn. Hello, Jordan Ross. He's going to take advantage.
Comfortable move then from Jordan Ross. He picks it up and does a wonderful job. Tom Freer will want in now at this point, trying to search for an angle. There's not going to be one there as they go through the next right out there on track. Back up though to the front, Richard Hampstead putting everything down on the table. He is running out of laps here to catch James Scott, but Cooper Webster out there in control at this stage. So that's still to go on. Still the top 5 not secure either. But at least with a lap and a bit here, Reese, it looks like James Scott's got to look behind.
Yeah, it looks like it. He's starting to drop from Cooper Webster here. What can Hampstead do on the final lap?
Here comes Myers.
Oh, yep, here comes Myers indeed in his battle with Corey Shepard up the inside at 10A, and there's contact.
Oh, no.
Shepard almost forced off the track there. They bang wheels again on the exit of 10B, but Shepard remains ahead.
He remains stalwart as they start the final lap then of this first race tonight here at Road America. Switch back coming from Brady towards turn 1. He tries to send it to the inside. Very tough to hold it around the outside. Shepard again, a little bit of argy-bargy between them, but it is going to be Myers who makes the way through and gets it done. Look at Richard Hampstead all of a sudden, now in third position. He's all over the back. He's like a rash here against one Mr. James Scott, and this would be huge for Hampstead, knowing that Madison Down has resigned himself to fourth position as they go through the right. I think James Scott is outside of a second now here to Cooper Webster as they take the drive through and onto the back straight for the final time. Hampstead's got a really good opportunity here to pick up that second place, and it would do him a world of good here if he could pick this off. He is the championship leader. He knows James Scott has been a little bit of a thorn so far this season, and now looking to the inside, Scott trying to give him no room at all under brakes. He tries to maximize it through the corner, and it's caught. Scott's going to go straight on here as they go through. Is Hampstead going to redress the plate and go through? No matter that, Cooper Webster takes the win overall, and the redresses and all of that means that James Scott will take second over the line, but we question whether it's enough, and a good effort there by one Corey Shepard as well. Gave everything, but it is still only a career best P6.
Well, either way, I think Shepard can be happy with that one as the battling goes on throughout the field. Kyle George still trying to make his way past Damian Johnstone and Brenton Hobson. Hobson to the front of that train. He's going to come across the line to finish in P20.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. Still going on in the mid to late pack here. Some side-by-side with the 9.5. The analytical 9.47, our Super Split 2 winner, with Hayden Harrison as they go through the final corner. Harrison taking it on the inside. And look at that, wonderful as they go over the line. Brilliant battling up and down the order here today on this opening race. But there's your winner, number 37, Cooper Webster. And you can't tell him he didn't work for it. He dropped down to 5th place after the first corner, and he's managed to come back and take absolutely everything of it. And well, that is a drive of very strong calibers, and you'd say Cooper Webster absolutely deserving that with the way that he has put that through. Confirmation then of result, we'll get that up on your screen in the next couple of moments for you, because it's a 33-minute and 27-second victory for Cooper Webster, winning by 2.5 come the end, with James Scott contact with Hampstead going through the final section of road, and ultimately the redress is there, meaning that Hampstead finishes it off in 3rd place. Madison Down takes 4th, with Brady Myers in 5th and Corey Shepard a career best 6th position in the Mr. Antenna Premier Racing Team machine. Ethan Warren takes 7th, with Andrew Gilliam there in 8th place overall. A disappointing race. He dropped 4 places over the course of it. 9th going to Jake Burton as he fought hard all race long in the virtual racing school car against another Jake, Maloney that is, in 10th.
It's Griffin Gardner in 11th place, losing 1 position. Joshua Anderson got freight trained in the opening laps. He started 8th, but has to settle for 12th. Andrew Dyson coming home in 13th, and Emily Jones and Chris Coxhead finishing where they started in 14th and 15th, respectively. Kurt Stenberg and Tom Freer making up 16th and 17th, with the top 20 rounded out by Adam Briggs, Jordan Ross, and Brenton Hobson, all gaining positions.
Yeah, all gaining positions. We go to 21st for Damian Johnstone as Kyle George managed to get 22nd in the end. Gained a couple places towards the end of that race, with Dylan Rudd in 23rd, up 6 with Kobe Jones as well, needing to find that form that he had at the back end of last season when he was challenging up there for top 10s. I think that he's been a little bit out of it at the moment. Glenn Postlethwaite, 25th for him, with Brad Ratu in 26th, getting a little bit jostled about, and a penalty late for Job Stewart will drop him down to 27th place. So a big drop there for Job. Kenneth Latta, 28th, 29th for Corey Preston, and Hayden Harrison then rounding out the top 30.
On his top split debut, no less. Tyler Blackburn making it 31st place after winning Split 2, with Ben Christensen coming home just under a second behind. Brett Loxton comes home 33rd, with Justin Wallace making up 6 positions from starting at the back of the grid. Sean Linsell and Damon Mulqueen will end up 35th and 36th. Lee Ellis suffering some damage and a couple of hits, as well as Zach Hanlon. They're classified 37th and 38th, our last 2 finishers, our retirements being Brian Borg and Aaron Dodd.
Those were the 40 that took to the grid then in that opening race. We're going to step aside very briefly here when it comes to the work that we are doing here with SimSpeed TV. We'll be back with the second race after just this thing that's going to be coming up, because we've got a replay here of Job Stewart dropping the spots. It wasn't a penalty as such. It was contact as they went through. So they're turning in is Jordan Ross, and that is a traditional quarter panel moment as he goes off. Secondary hit comes in, and you'd have to say, for putting the foot in like that, if you were Jordan Ross, that does not look quite nice.
No, certainly not. And I think Job Stewart's going to be very dissatisfied with that one. But either way, I think we've got to step aside very briefly now. Sperry, we're going to get going for race 2 shortly.
We certainly are. We'll be back with more after this.
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it. It's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong, where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Hey everyone, the USF 2000 is a blast to drive now, and here's your chance to learn it quickly. From my tutorial, VRS created a free bonus track guide for the Laguna Seca circuit, where you can learn exactly what I do in every corner to improve your lap times and get faster on track. You'll learn how to easily recognize brake markers, You'll find out which curves to attack and which ones to avoid. You'll know when to use the full track and when a sequence of corners requires a compromise. And you'll learn how hard to brake and when to lift. The VRS Quick Reference track maps are available free to download and delivered each week to your inbox. The entire global MX-5 series is available, as well as bonus maps like this one and many more. So if you're a new racer, or a veteran, or just anyone who wants to learn how to get faster sooner, the VRS track guides are for you. Just hit the link or button on screen and get yours today.
Are you new to sim racing, or maybe a veteran struggling to reach the next level? Have you ever wondered how the aliens reach impressive lap times that seem impossible to achieve? If so, you're not alone. Most drivers reach a certain level and get stuck. But getting faster on track is easier than you think. VRS coaches are some of the best sim racers in the world and offer one-on-one driver skills training at affordable rates to help new drivers learn the basics and help experienced drivers break through to the next level. Are you ready to get faster and get off the iRacing roller coaster? If so, VRS one-on-one personal training is for you. If you've invested in your equipment, it might be time to invest in yourself. Just go to virtualracingschool.com and sign up for a 30, 60 or 90-minute session with one of our world-class coaches, and you'll learn exactly what to do for faster lap times and more podiums.
Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside. Both of them. Maloney. Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive!
This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2021 season of V8SCOPS. This, of course, powered by the Virtual Racing School, has been a wonderful season so far. And Cooper Webster, with a wonderful victory, has got exactly what he has wanted then as things proceed. I'm Jake Sperry, joined alongside, of course, by the Southpaw racer, Reese Gardner. And Reese, we were having a little discussion at the back end of the racing whilst we were in commercial break. And we were talking a lot about the incident there at the very end between Richard Hampstead and, of course, the incident that came along with one Mr. James Scott. And the question becomes, should more be done in this series to go out there and protect the driver who is in front from having an incident with a driver behind on the final lap?
Yeah, it's an interesting conundrum because, I think Hampstead, he knew that there wasn't much of a threat from behind, and, he could obviously have a red hot go at the move. It being the final lap and contact being made, he could redress it and no penalty was thus applied. But yeah, I think the point you were raising is that maybe even though redressing technically cancels out a penalty, there should be a penalty anyway to discourage those kinds of moves.
Exactly. You look at this sort of situation as you go in towards the final couple corners. We saw it last season at Belle Isle with Madsen down going for an almighty send. You see these big moves coming in where drivers from behind trying to make these moves know that they have zero risk to go out there and try that move. They know either they're going to pull off a world-class overtake or they're going to cause an accident. And more often than not, they're going to cause an accident. And if they do, what's the penalty for causing an accident? Oh, we'll just redress the position and we'll act like nothing's happened. But in reality, what you're doing is you are putting another driver's race at risk for what? One position?
And even at that, for that one position, you're doing so where you can put a car in the wall, you can put a car in trouble. And it's lucky that we haven't seen more incidents like that on the final lap where it's gone into trouble. So I think maybe here, Reese, I don't know how much you agree or don't disagree, I think there needs to be more protection for the driver who's trying to defend a place, because we are seeing drivers who are having to defend a place not know exactly what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to just take a hit and cop it and act as if nothing's happened. It's not fair on them.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point that you raise. I mean, I'd say that I agree on the surface. You know, I think that this series, as brilliant as it is, it has struggled in the past with general driving standards and, you know, the mentality of a lot of drivers out there being just to send it and, you know, damn the consequences, so to speak, if you'll pardon my language. But yeah, I'm not too sure how to call it, you know. I'd say that I would fall more on the side of there being more of a punishment for drivers who make those sends and then immediately redress it, because at the end of the day, you are still causing an incident.
You absolutely are, and there needs to be a deterrent, in my view, about that. So we'll see how this all goes on the longer that the racing moves on through. But at least at this moment in time, we are in the practice realms at the moment. We just waiting for our director to get back. He's just had to run off for a little bit of a moment. Oh, look at that. Right on cue. How good is that? As we take a little look at these evening conditions here at Road Atlanta. And it's important to note that they've got the same 20-minute practice. They've got the same 15 minutes on the board. And they've got that same 25 laps. But the difference is that track is a lot colder. It was 37 when they finished. And oh, hello, he's just about made his way back. This is a limitation race now for Jordan Caruso. He's already hemorrhaged half his points that he'll be getting tonight. And he'll be hoping that he can make a really strong go of things to make things really difficult for those around. So Jordan Caruso with a lot to prove. But it's cold conditions, Reed. So that, traditionally, over the course of this season, has favoured Altus.
Has indeed. Hot tracks tend to be Trans-Tasman Racing's strong suit, as we saw towards the end from Richard Hampstead in race 1. But in these cooler conditions, you know, the sun is basically set at the moment. It's just past 7:15 in the evening in sim time. Altus Esports really like cold tracks, so I would expect them to continue their form from race 1 qualifying. Jordan, of course, just getting home, and if you just joined us, the reason that Jordan Caruso's only just joined is because he had driver coaching at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit, and he's only just made it home in time to get on for race 2. So he'll add another car to the mix. Let's see if he can put it up there with Cooper Webster and James Scott.
Here is the number 9 car out there right now. It is Ben Christensen. And I believe we can take a little portal eyes view in to see how he is doing out there at the moment. He's got a nice few boxes there in the background. He's effectively racing in a cupboard, say, at this moment in time, as he looks to try and make that push and that effort forward as he goes through the final stages on the circuit. So a lot of work that he will have to be putting in after a solid result in the opening race. But there is more to come, you'd feel, from him at this stage. And, you know, it's always a development. You're trying to develop to get to that next level and that higher stage.
Yeah, indeed. 32nd place finish for Ben Christensen. He lost out on one position from where he started, but still managing to get to the end in what was quite a chaotic race throughout a lot of the field. So he's hoping that he'll be able to get himself up there. It's business as usual for Webster and Caruso, as you can see from the timing tower on the left. 1-2 in practice. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely no real qualms about that. They have shown over the course of today so far that they are the quickest drivers out there at this moment in time. But this is one of the things. You get tracks that ebb and flow. For example, you saw at Taylor Bend, for example, in the supercars, just how it was likes of Di Pasquale out there, and Chaz Mostert looked pretty good, and so did Cam Waters. You saw those drivers have a little bit of a better time with things. And it's the same here in sim racing as Corey Shepard moves up to second. Tracks will suit certain drivers more than others, and every setup is an evolution as you go through to the next race. So you're trying to figure that out
And of course, we were talking a little bit earlier on about this, how build to build there is going to be a difference. There is Andrew Gilliam. This race will mark his 50th race in the top split, as he will try and put that big focus in on the board and realign his season.
Indeed, Andrew Gilliam looking to go forward a bit more from his finish in race 1. He started 4th, but slipped down the field to finish 8th, so he's still got a little bit of work to do to get himself back on track. He just needs to try and avoid any incidents on the first lap, and he should be golden. That is, if he can hold on to those guys up at the front. It hasn't been the best of a season start for Andrew Gilliam. I think a lot of people, including us up here in the commentary box, were expecting incredible things from him this season, but it hasn't quite gone to plan for him. Nonetheless, he still remains a very talented individual, and I'm sure that, in just a few more races' time, he can help to get his season back on track.
I definitely think he can, but there will be question marks over how he goes and makes that happen. So we'll keep that in mind. The longer that this season does go on, of course, 15 rounds over the course of this season through all sorts of directives and disciplines. And we talked about last season how Gilliam did have an outside shot of the championship, but you would say they went with a safe pairing when it came to Enduros at the time, Reese, pairing up Gilliam with Talyancic. Do you feel that maybe there is an element of safety when it comes to the work that's done at Pursuit, that they just want a safe pair and have 3 quick drivers and 3 safe pairs of hands to bring it home in comparison to others?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, Pursuit have been around for a while. They have a good crew of drivers that are very familiar with each other. So I think, if you want to go for familiarity in a lot of stages. I would think that if Gilliam had a better start to the season and he was actually gunning for the top 3 spots in the championship at this stage, they might be reconsidering that.
I definitely think so, but at least for the time being, we are a little ways away from Enduro season. There is Richard Hamstead. He put in his 48th SCOPS podium there with that 3rd place finish here at Road Atlanta. He's got 16 race wins to his name over the courses of the many, many rounds that he has conducted, and definitely someone who is going down as one of these Australian sim racing legends out there on track. Championship lead, of course, does slightly open out his gap to Madison Down at the moment, but still no guarantees, and he'll still have to qualify it well. And we saw that over the courses of the qualifyings, how they had to really work here today, as he has a little bit of a run-in with the 35 there, moving up the hill of Job Stewart. But we saw how it was Trans-Tasman who had a few issues when it came to qualifying, and they really had to dig down deep to get themselves up in and around that top 10. Now, with just how congested the middle of the pack has been here at Road Atlanta, do you feel that it's going to be a similar state of troubles?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I don't know how the change in conditions is going to affect TTR specifically, but they'll obviously be aiming to get themselves as far up the field as possible, potentially into the top 3. It looks like Altus are pretty indefeatable here at Road Atlanta so far tonight. So I think they're going to have to try and pull something out in qualifying once again. Either way, this round hasn't quite gone to plan for this guy, our championship leader, Madison Down.
Well, he was a reigning champion, championship leader, of course, being Richard Hamstead, but he's only 40 points behind and had to work for it. Still got 4th position, which he'll be happy with, but it was a grind, you would say, for him, and it's not the sort of results that you want to get 4th place, but sometimes they're the ones that you need to put championships on the table when you're not maybe racing at 100%, or you're not at plan A as he finds the wall. It can be very much a case of what can you find. Good drives, though, from down the field as well. The likes of Kurt Stemberg had a really good run. Chris Cox had as well. You find, as Jordan Caruso actually goes fastest, by the way, you find that you've got the likes of Coxhead and Stemberg who, are there. But, I'm really impressed with those two's drives over the course of that opening race that we had here today.
Yeah, I'm impressed too. I mean, Kurt Stemberg, managing to work his way up only one position, but nonetheless, you know, he's a very experienced campaigner. The fact that he was able to hold on in the midst of that very congested mid-pack and hold on for that 16th place shows again the wealth of Stenny's experience, and the same can be said for Coxhead as well. 15th place for him in race 1, and managing to pull off some pretty epic moves around the likes of Andrew Dyson and Emily Jones. They would have ultimately got back past him in the end, but nonetheless still showing that he has what it takes to compete here at the top level.
Yep, and it's all about that competing and how you focus and push everything into perspective. You'd argue as well that a lot of drivers are trying to put that focus in. Kobe Jones is one that I'm keeping an eye out on out there. Of course, we saw at the back end of last season how he managed to put a really good focus together, Reese. Managed to put himself in and around that top 10. Was looking like it was going to be that kick-on that he needed for Team Jinx Shifters, part of the HJR collective. But what you find now is that you take a few weeks off, as it's Altus 123, by the way, now in practice. You take a couple weeks off, you don't put maybe enough reps in on the board, and all of a sudden you're struggling again. You're down there P30, P32, and that's how difficult SCOPS is. You don't put the time in, you don't put the effort in, you don't put the practice in, you're going to be absolutely nowhere in this series. This series eats drivers alive.
Yeah, that's a good summation of it, and that's been the case for pretty much the whole of this series' existence. The drivers that consistently finish up the top are the ones that have the most track time here in the Australian touring cars on the iRacing service. And Kobe, I think, will be ruining that first race, but hopefully he can get himself back on track here in race 2. The cooler track might just help him. There's a little bit more grip available for the drivers, and you get the sense in cooler conditions on iRacing that you can push a bit harder and get a bit more out of your machine.
And it's all about that push and that pull, the different contexts that are put through into the mix, and we will be seeing just how this goes. We are only a handful of minutes away from the start of qualifying action, 15 minutes worth of that. And how important is it going to be here, Reese, to set a really quick time on that opening lap? We saw how putting just that time early just releases you, gives yourself a little bit of room, as Josh Anderson goes third here in practice. Another driver who needs a really good second race actually is Josh Anderson. Just talk on this briefly. Had that contact early on, got really shuffled down the field. Now needs to go out there, gather it back up again.
Yeah, it'll be take 2 for him here in race 2. He'll have another chance to keep himself up there, potentially in that top 5. But I think in terms of the way qualifying is going to work, how drivers are going to run it, it's not going to be as stark of a difference in terms of, you know, laps set early on versus laps set later on. The track is cool, and it's going to get cooler because it's in the evening conditions. So I think you're going to be seeing drivers extracting a bit more out of their cars towards the end of the session. You do make a good point, though. It is all about trying to get that time down early just for your personal satisfaction and taking that pressure off yourself.
And then there'll be more time later on as you go and push forward for it. If you haven't had a chance already here, ladies and gentlemen, watching maybe for the first time, or you've been around a little bit more, you can like, share and subscribe for more amazing content brought to you by SimSpeed TV. The road to 7,000 subscribers continues here with us at the Too Easy Finance Road of Atlanta 200 out there on course. So there is still a whole heap of everything to keep in mind at this stage, as more and more will be put together on the books. And now what can you do with this final race? They know what they need here out of this one, Reese. They know that this is an important point in terms of their season. They'll be keeping a lot of eyes firmly placed forward, I would say, at this moment in time, because they know that they don't have a race until June next, which will be the Donington Park Super Sprint.
Indeed, Donington Park making its return to V8SCOPS after a few years' absence. It'll be interesting to see how these current generation Australian touring cars on the iRacing service handle it. Last time we raced at Donington, was all the way back in the days of the FG Falcon and the VF Commodore. So a little bit of a change in that respect. But now, yes, the drivers will be working on getting the best result possible, setting themselves up well for a nice little break before we go racing again at Donington. And in terms of Altus, well, I think they're really well placed here. It's been a great round for them so far. Now they've got another man on the team in the form of Jordan Caruso.
They certainly do, and more to bolster the numbers then, as we'll be looking towards the work that is being done here in the qualifying. The mad scramble to get themselves out of the pits initiate, and it is Jake Burton out first, then it's Corey Shepard, then it is Brady Myers. So a little bit different in terms of the competition up at the front, but to be up there at the front gives you nice clean air, and sometimes that does give you that emphasis to go out and attack, just like you did in the pre-qualifying times, just like you did in the practices that you did by yourself in private sessions.
Yes, indeed. Nice clear air for Jake Burton up front, and it always is a mad scramble to get out of the pits in V8SCOPS. You see just how congested the traffic is coming through the S's, that midfield really close together, and Kyle George, the last car in that particular line, though not the last to leave the pits. Down at 10A, we're looking at the moment. The heavy braking zone at the end of the lap. Jake Burton just coming around turn 9 now and coming down into the braking zone to set off a lap. Let's see how quick the times end up getting in this session. It was low 1 minute 18s, high 1 minute 17s for drivers in practice. Let's see if they can beat even those.
Well, yeah, we certainly will. On to those first flying laps. We go with Jake Burton in towards turn number 1 here. This sweeping right up the hill. Of course, that's where Dane Warren made his all-conquering overtake there at that section of road, and through 2 into 3. Heavy amounts of curb there on the inside. So he attacks the left through 4, and now down into the S's section. Right, left, and then right back up as they go through the left at 5 and figure out how much curb can you take. A lot of it is the answer. Gets it gathered up nice and neatly, up and down and all around as you just crest up the hill slightly under braking. It means you can brake a little bit late. You brake effectively in that hill section as you take the next right now of turn 7 and onto the back straight. Once more comes Jake Burton. This big charge down the hill. A chance to breathe, of course, Reese. You said a little bit earlier on as things go through. No DRS, although the marker boards are there for the McLaren MP430s and the Formula Renault 3.5s as and when they do race here. Down the hill, braking all the way here at 10A and 10B. Nice and gathered up with the curbs. You go through the left and the right and power down on the exit then. You fight for grip over the crest under that Fox Factory Bridge through turn 12. Across the line, Burton puts an 18.1 as the first benchmark. Shepard just behind, 18 flat, just beats it.
Brady Myers shuffles Jake Burton back to 3rd and then back to 4th as, wow, the times are really starting to come in now. The first 1 minute 17 from James Scott puts himself up towards the top. Cooper Webster, pole sitter in race 1, just coming through the final turn. What's his opening campaign going to be? It's going to be a 17.791 for him. That puts him P2 behind James Scott.
Yeah, and then into 3rd goes Jordan Caruso. Altus, 1, 2, 3 at this moment. Griffin Gardner qualifies it 5th at this moment in time. Anderson is P6. Hampstead down there in 13th. Stemberg with a 121. That's not a representative lap time at all, but really interesting here. These opening laps coming in on the board. Emily Jones goes to P7. Brett Loxton now searching for a bit of time in the Zuva racing car, making a charge over towards the line. 18.6 there from Brett, and will be down in 20th place, at least for the moment.
Not a bad opening run there for Brett Loxton, roughly consistent with his form in race 1. Richard Hampstead, the championship leader, coming into the braking zone for 10A and 10B. Of course, the red banner on his windscreen designating that he is the championship leader, and he will have held on to that despite the Altus 1-2, because his teammate Madison Down finishing just behind him in 4th. He's abandoned that run, starting to go into the pit lane.
Yeah, and of course, you can now maybe get 2 laps out of a set of tyres if you're really pushing it. So this will also change that strategy in their qualifying efforts. Here is Jordan Ross in the 143, diving down the hill. Will complete his lap then as he goes for it, getting a lot of turn through that final section. And that is also an 18.6 there from him. Goes 19th fastest then. And after the opening laps, there are some surprises out there up and down the order as they go through. Stemberg jumps up to 15th place with his lap time, but there are drivers well out of position right now. Richard Hampstead is down there in 14th, and you've got a handful of drivers who haven't yet set a time. Number 1, Madison Down, prime example of this.
Yeah, Madison has yet to complete a lap. It looks like he's just started a run himself as we look at Adam Briggs coming across the line to set an 18.5, and that brings him up to 19th position. That cutoff point at the bottom of the top 20 seems to be a very popular place to be at the moment, with Bradley Ratu starting off a lap in the Exto Gaming number 38. Madison Down has just made his way out of turn 5, and remains to be seen what this lap is going to turn out like for him. He's got a lot of traffic up ahead of him. That is Tom Freer, Job Stewart, and Jordan Caruso all on a line, so he's been balked a little bit on this one.
Yeah, that won't help going through. They move to the inside when they realise that's Mads. He's on a lap. Let him go. He's got the number 1 on the car for a reason, and that is probably because he's pretty quick as he goes down the hill and looks for every single possible thing. More traffic, though. Hobson, this is going to get a little bit dicey here. Postlethwaite out of the way. Hanlon gets out of the way, and now suddenly you've got Cooper Webster there into the party, gearing up for his flying lap, and he'll be given the hurry up as they go under the Fox Factory Bridge. Madison Down has been really pushing. It's not been the easiest lap to concoct together, but it's still an 18.1. Give him some credit there, but it doesn't count because he's had an off track somewhere over the course of the lap. So Mads is really struggling here to put something on the board.
He is indeed, and again, at the start of this qualifying session, it looks like Trans-Tasman don't quite have it all together. Their fastest car at the moment is Joshua Anderson, and he's in 6th at the moment. Ben Christensen making his way around a lap at the moment, and goodness me, that's a lot of traffic on the run up to turn 3. He got a little bit distracted from that one, and I can only imagine the words coming out of his mouth, maybe a couple of remarks about the way drivers are conducting themselves out on circuit right now. Let's see what Ben Christensen can do.
Yeah, really pushing right now is Christensen. Looking over, not too happy. He gives a couple words. I'm not quick. This hasn't been a good first sector, and you really do see how you need to try and put those times all nicely on the board the longer that it does go on. But it is Scott, Webster, Caruso, Shepard, Gardner, the top 5. Anderson, best placed right now in 6th place. And here comes Webster. Looks to push. Anderson just jumps up to 4th. Webster dives down into the pit. So there you can see Josh Anderson really working hard there as part of the Trans-Tasman outfit. Emily Jones, she's having a really good qualifying here in 7th place. She had a really good run here a couple years ago, which was the first moment we said that was good. Job Stewart's just gone into P6, by the way. Gilliam up to 4th. And Emily Jones, hello, P5.
Breaking into the 1:17s to boot. An excellent lap there from Emily as we see Chris Coxhead pulling it into the pit lane in the Zuva car. Oh, that's a bit of a problem there for the 990 of Dylan Rudd. New to 95 Sim Sport after the collapse of Team NSR. So something has gone very wrong for him on that lap.
It has done, but crucially got it back to pits, which will be the key. So that is going to be ideal then, because you can get a fresh car when you dive down into the pit. So it's Scott, Webster, Caruso, Gilliam, Jones, your top 5 all of a sudden. Hampstead down there in P15. Ethan Warren is 10th. Myers 11th. Maloney 12th. There is Brenton Hobson in the 88 machine, looking to drive over towards the final couple corners and find what's needed. We are over halfway through this qualifying session. We are down to 6 minutes on the clock as they charge down and see what that time is going to be as they cross the line, and it is an 18.651 over for Brenton Hobson. That's good enough to remain in 25th position, at least for the time being right now. So there is still that element of can you improve? But once more, it's going to have to be late in the session for a lot of these Trans-Tasman drivers to move up.
Indeed. Brady Myers coming up to the end of a run here, and he's decided to abandon that. He's not happy with that lap either. And Myers in 11th as Ethan Warren shifts himself up to P5 in the Trans-Tasman number 59. Hayden Harrison now trying to get a lap down on the board. It wasn't an improvement on that one, though. Hopefully he can get things a little bit more in order. Meanwhile, Jake Maloney, after a titanic battle with Jake Burton in race 1, he'll be looking to stake his claim for Trans-Tasman as well. Try and keep himself into the top 10. He's currently sitting in 12th.
He is, and he's currently drifting his way around turn 7, trying to keep the power down. So that very much was a big scrap then as they went on through. They tried to fight for it. Andrew Dyson looking very good as well in the 41 simracing.com DPR Ford. He's up there right now in 14th place here, and on the rears of Burton and Maloney and Myers, and he'll be looking to try and get himself up a little bit more. Burton just moves up then into 11th position with that time, so a little shade of improvement there. And Madison Down still without a time, currently way down. In fact, his time is a 24.8 as classified, so that is 41st position on the grid, and he's got not much help. Balk by Job Stewart.
Oh dear, this is a horrendous qualifying session for Madison Down. He immediately sends it back into the pits. He must be very frustrated in that number 1 at the moment as, oh, that's a DPR car going a bit straight on at 10B. That is Andrew Dyson, who's somehow messed up the braking zone. Wow, Madison Down. I did not expect him to not have a representative time at this stage of the session. It's going to be a frantic struggle for him to try and get a time on the board in the last couple minutes.
He gets balked in those final 2 laps. You know, what can you say? This is where you have to be absolutely on it at this stage to hope that it works for you. If it doesn't, then you're in for a very long 25 laps with 3 and a bit minutes to go. This is probably the last time you can get in and out and go and try and put a time down. Hampstead, for comparison, has put himself up into P5 through the middle of all of this. So we are starting to see those times starting to merge and meld and those changes of position. But at the moment, now what?
Now what indeed? Job Stewart, of course, on a lap now, and he'll be feeling a little sheepish after blocking Madison Down in the chicane. Of course, he was trying to get a lap started there. Is he going to go for the pits? He is indeed. So no time in that for Job Stewart. What about Brady Myers then? He had a pretty tough one in race 1. A nice clean run through 10A and 10B, and clean out on the curb as well. Commits to the lap. Let's see what he can do in the number 22. Currently sitting in 13th, and doesn't look like that time counted. He had an off track on the way there.
Yeah, and it was slower as well by 4,000, so wouldn't count anyway. So stays in 13th place, which is a big hurt after a good run in the opening race, and that's why you do 2 different qualifying sessions. You do get differences in times. You do get people a little bit in and out of position, as you've got Gilliam still in 4th, Hampstead 5th, Warren 6th, and Jones in 7th. Hayden Harrison were on board with minute 48. Now drivers will be gearing up their final laps, if not already on them.
Yeah, and Hayden Harrison, of course, making his top split debut this round, and he's made a pretty good name for himself, finishing in the top 30. So let's see how he can get this lap done. He's going to get maybe a little bit of assistance here from Corey Shepard as one of the Trans-Tasman cars pulls over to the side to let him go. The draft, I think there's going to be a whisper of one here from Corey Shepard, so it's going to translate into a bit better straight line speed here for Hayden in the Taipan Esports machine, but will it be an improvement? It's certainly going to be an improvement on the time that he has set so far, that 47, which is really an outlap. But we're looking for a time that is closer to 1 minute 19, maybe even a 1 minute 18.
Yep, so we'll see how it goes then for Harrison. It's a 19-1, so remains in 37th. We're down with not long left to go here in qualifying, just 45 seconds. Hampstead making a drive to the line. He starts his final lap out there. Number 1 is the big focus here. Madison Down, diving down the hill. This lap looks like it should count. Will it count, though, is the next question as he crosses the line. It's an 18.2 only. P16. That is not where the reigning champion wants to be. Comfortable enough, then, is one of those Altus cars. They're down in the pits. We're down to 10 seconds now remaining in qualifying, and there'll be questions on who is going to be last over the line with 3, 2, 1, and 0. It looks like Hobson just misses out 18.7 from getting another lap in. So we now are in full view. Webster can't improve. Borg can't improve. Corey Shepard out there on a lap right now is hoping he can jump up from 11th. He's a quarter of a second down here at Road Atlanta as Glenn Postlethwaite now takes to the pits. Ethan Warren and Kobe Jones won't improve, nor will Corey Shepard. He'll dive also down into the pits. Someone out on a lap is Kurt Stemberg, as Job Stewart then will make his way through the final couple corners and try and drive it over towards the line and gain a little bit more out there. Hampstead, of course, is out there on a lap as well as he pushes for the line and doesn't improve on his time. There goes Job Stewart, 18.8, definitely nothing there in terms of lap time to get it done. James Scott comfortable that he's going to get there. Mads with another attempt over the line and doesn't improve. So huge for Madison Down. He's in starting from 16th, and that is a kick in the teeth for what he was hoping for as he was looking for lap times. You got Wallace out there. Anderson still can improve from 9th position, but will also dive down into the pits. Adam Briggs going for a big lap as well, but is also going to dive it down then pit lane as well. So that is everyone done in qualifying. We can get the grid up for you then and see where everybody has stacked out. Some big shocks in qualifying then, and ones which maybe we weren't quite expecting to see here for Scops at Road Atlanta. It's been a tough stomping ground for a number of drivers in the past, but James Scott makes it Altus 1, 2, 3 up at the top. 117,750, 41 thousandths clear of Cooper Webster there in second, and Jordan Caruso lining it up in 3rd position. It's Griffin Gardner going from 4th, with Andrew Gilliam 5th, and Ethan Warren then, surprisingly, best placer Trans-Tasman in 6th position. Richard Hampstead will start from 7th. There was a late time from Gardner, by the way, that got him up to 4th, with Emily Jones there. She is in 8th place, with Josh Anderson starting 9th. Job Stewart rounding out the top 10.
Corey Shepard qualifies in 11th place ahead of Jake Burton and Brady Myers and Jake Maloney, the Trans-Tasman duo, 22 and 29. 41 of Andrew Dyson rounding out the top 15, but the big shock from that session is Madison Down, the reigning champion, couldn't get a satisfactory lap in qualifying. He's going to start from 16th ahead of Stemberg. Chris Coxhead is going to round out the 9th row of the grid, the 10th row taken up by Dylan Rudd and Lee Ellis.
21st position then, as we flick over, goes to, of course, Adam Briggs. You got Kobe Jones alongside there in 22nd position. Damien Johnstone and Tom Freer. Once again, this is an all Synergy Sim Racing 12th row of the grid, with Jordan Ross there in 25th and Aaron Dodd for the 9-5 team there in 26th position. Glenn Postlethwaite is 27th, with Sean Linsdale 28th, and it's 2 straight rows of Synergy and DPR. Brenton Hobson 29th, Kenneth Latter P30. I believe we may have just lost out there a little bit in terms of race. So 31st position then, as we charge through, is Brett Loxton. Kyle George then in 32nd. Brian Borg 33rd, with Brad Ratu in 34th. Then it's Ben Christensen, P35, with Justin Wallace there in 36. And then over to the final 4 or 5 drivers: Corey Preston, Hayden Harrison, Tyler Blackburn, the Super Split 2 winner, Damon Mulqueen for Synergy, and then Zach Hanlon for Altus make up the field here for the work that we've got going forward. So, internet's gone in Perth for Reese Gardner. That is a shame. But we will continue regardless here with all of the action for you here on YouTube and on Facebook. Big work coming into the play right now. And of course, it is Altus 1, 2, 3 at this point in time. Andrew Gilliam, of course, there in 5th position, will be hoping for a really good run and try and boost up that season. You've got Griffin Gardner there in 4th who can challenge. And of course, Madison down in P16 with everything to do and a little bit more in terms of this sort of race. So the drama's really unfolding, it seems, at this moment. And we'll keep an eye out to see how this all concocts itself. We are here at Road Atlanta. It's Donington Park in a few weeks, which will be what they'll be focusing on next. A very natural transition in terms of tracks. But for James Scott, Cooper Webster, Jordan Caruso, Altus with a trifecta up there up top. They've got to try and keep it together here. Lights on here at Road Atlanta. And we, ladies and gentlemen, are going to be racing right about. Long hold for this green flag to drop. Incredibly long hold for this green flag to drop. It drops finally, and there was a creep from 4th row of the grid, Emily Jones. She may have jumped the start then as he went through. Side by side immediately is Hampstead. Threads the needle between Warren and co. Great start from Griffin Gardner. He's up to 3rd. Gilliam there on the inside, contact with the Trans-Tasman cars. They came together, and somehow they hold it nicely all as they go up the hill towards turns 2 and 3 then for the very first time. It's a big bottleneck then in the middle as they go through. Still a bit of side-by-side to try and figure out behind Job Stewart. That's Myers and Warren as they go on through. But crucially, a very aggressive start as they went on through and tried to figure everything out. Webster clear though. Gardner has moved up to 3rd. Drivers in the background then as the analytical car there of Tyler Blackburn goes for a spin in the back with a little bit of help then to go as well. Both analytical cars in trouble. Justin Wallace as well in a world of hurt then as they go through. So dramas at least in the early goings. James Scott now is really attacking as we see here as well. Jones trying to come back as well. There is James Scott looking back for 1, 2, 3. You've got Gilliam there in the mix as well as they will take that descent down the hill in towards turns 10A and 10B as they go on through. And nothing doing. 3 wide in the middle. This is going to be dramas here. And Jones and co, they somehow do well. Burton on the outside. And then you've got Dyson, Maloney and Madison down. All there figuring out where on earth do you go right now. Dyson losing the place out to Maloney. And now this mid-pack looking so feisty as they go on through here. Now to the inside. Here comes Mad searching for a chance then to go through and does so. Now it's Stemberg and Ellis. It's a huge train right now. It's up further forward here in the packs. You can see just how aggressive these drivers need to be off of the opening goings. We've got some nice clear work then going through the opening lap then. Everyone's still going. No safety cars needing to be called. We go on board with Job Stewart then, who is currently classified in 9th place at this point in time, and troubles for the 9.5 car of Dylan Rudd. Slow to get the pickup going as he drives on through. So no real ideals then. Virtual Racing School replay up on screen for you here, ladies and gentlemen. And this is how it goes wrong. Going through turn 3 into 4. And it just looks like he has a moment, a slowdown penalty, a really tough one to serve. Has to take to the grass as there's a bit of 2 wide there with Zach Hanlon trying to go through. And that wasn't necessarily the most ideal scenario to find yourself in. That straight Burton off the road then. Emily Jones gets balked on the run. And suddenly they're all going to go through right now here. Through will go Stemberg. Through will go Dyson. Through will go Maloney, and Coxhead is in the mix as well, trying to fight through. Contact with Emily Jones. They somehow make it all work as they make a way through. We've still got some 3 wides as they go through. Madison Downs through all of this. They go in towards turn 1. Burton dropping a myriad of positions then as Hobson will look to try and go through as well. So now that is Burton down to 22nd position. That is pain as he looks to try and find a way back through. Pain indeed. Trying to get through. Top 3 though, still Altus, Webster, Caruso, Scott. How they look at this stage. You've got Gilliam in 5th. You've got Josh Anderson there in 6th position. And there is Corey Shepard. Can't miss him. Mr. Antenna then is looking to try and get to Richard Hampstead there in P7 in this race. Long drive on this back stretch, looking towards the left and the right of turn A and turn B on lap 3 here out of 25. So, at least for the moment, It's going to be about how you get that move all nicely situated. On the brakes, it's going to be a waiting game for the moment because they're all in that train and they're figuring out where can you get the one move. You're looking for micro mistakes in this sort of field, and a great train on still behind Emily Jones, because we've got a Jones battle, ladies and gentlemen. Sound the Jones alarm. Kobe Jones is battling with Emily Jones out there for position in the battle of the Joneses. So we'll keep an eye out on that one as well. Coxhead just behind. Then you got Briggs, got Dylan Rudd in the pits. You got Dodd there, you got Hobson, all searching for chances to go out there and gain places. And every place matters because they score their points here by average positions. For example, if you get a second and a third and you get an average position of you are the best out of everyone in the field, you will score the maximum of 400 points. That's going to be crucial the longer that this one goes. As we look at the Jinx Shifters car there of Kobe Jones up the hill, looking towards turn number 6, a little bit of ways now from Emily Jones just in front. But Chris Cox said in the Zuva Racing car, it's two HJR cars in a line as they try and figure out where they need to be together. Keep an eye out as well on Jordan Caruso in second place right now, because that is being closed right down by James Scott. Thinking about the inside, but it was just a thought at that point in time, nothing more, a fleeting thought at that as well. So you got Gardner there, and very close behind, Corey Shepard is looking all over the back of Hampstead, who really struggles with drive coming out of the hill as they try and go through. So not ideal, at least at this moment in time. And there's a car off, and that is Nick Parker, who is out there. And the safety car's gone out then at the wrong time. So the safety car has not listened out there and has decided to go for a little bit of a wonder, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm not sure what happened there. Bit of side-by-side. Jordan Ross, by the way, getting it done on Damien Johnstone, the teammate, changing places. So that one has worked out then for both of them. We'll probably need to have a little talk with race control to see what Nick Parker was doing out there on circuit. There is no car stopped out there on track at any point that we can see. But still, racing goes on. There is the safety car going back down to the end of the lane, as it does traditionally with that iRacing Porsche first safety car there for show. But now the battle's still on here for second, and behind, well, there is one of the reasons, a very damaged Lee Ellis out there on track. That would probably be the reason why the safety car was called out prematurely, or Nick Parker took the initiative himself as they went on through. So ultimately that cleared itself. I think they were going to call the safety car for it, but ultimately Lee Ellis got it going again, and they decided to retract that statement. So through turn 1 with the analytical car, that's a big off. And well, if it wasn't there already, you can see buried in the tyres is Lee Ellis, and he managed to get it going again, which is mightily impressive from that position. But the safety car is out now in full. We have a safety car, and just need to look around to see what the reasoning for that is. So a late call then on the safety car, it seems, at this stage, but we have the field neutralised at this moment in time. We do have a safety car. We will need to go and look around and see why that safety car is there at this point in time. I'm not quite sure why we are in this condition at this point in time, but at least for the moment, we are under this position. So a couple drivers taking an opportunity to get some damage repaired out there on circuit, and we will be driving around the field very much now at a point of stasis out there on circuit. Some drivers maybe a little bit unhappy, some drivers a bit happy at this moment in time, but Cooper Webster in control of stages at this moment. Reese, I do believe we have you back here. We do have a safety car, and at the moment it's very phantom, this safety car.
Yeah, certainly seems so. Australian internet is fantastic, can I just say. But Simon Black now out there at the front of the field in the Oceanic Sim Racing pace car. Hopefully we can get back green very soon and make sure that we can get back to some really good racing. Yeah, unfortunately, due to my internet dropping out, I completely missed the first few laps of the race. So from my initial observations, Webster, Caruso and Scott still holding on to those first 3 places. So it's working out fantastically for Altus.
It certainly is. 1, 2 and 3, and they will have the chance to coordinate the restart. You can see a whole myriad
of Trans-Tasman in the middle. You've got Madison down there in P12, Maloney 13th, and all these drivers in the mid-pack will be looking to try and gain those places as much as they possibly can. So we'll keep that focus on as they go through. We are under pacing conditions, which does neutralize the field a little bit. Some drivers who did have damage now able to take repairs and get going again. And of course, now they've got to just stay calm in this condition. They've had a safety car called. They now have to try and work and keep the heat in the tyres. And then when they get themselves back out and racing again, they are going to be very much in a good position out there. So it looks like we are going green at the end of this lap on the direction of Henry King. I believe Mike Korolev not here tonight for things. So you got Simon Black leading things. He gets himself out in the pace car. You got Henry King there in the mix with Nick Parker trying to work everything out together. So Reese, pace in control for Cooper Webster, who made good progress. James Scott down there in third.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be all about how they nail this start. Webster, Caruso and Scott, how they coordinate it. They'll be hoping that the pursuit duo of Griffin Gardner and Andrew Gilliam can back up the Trans-Tasman cars of Anderson and Hampstead there, try and stymie the run from the TTR army in the midfield. So, just coming out of turn 7, the other cars at the rear of the field, a couple of them still carrying plenty of battle scars, but pace car pulling away is now coming out of 10B. And the pace being controlled by Cooper Webster, and he's going to leave this as long as he can.
Yeah, he's trying to do as much as he can to slow this down. Of course, Mike Korolev has got the weekend off here today. He got himself engaged, which is really good for him. I'm really happy for him, and of course, how he goes forward for his future. And of course, it's not ideal when you're stuck in a water closet, but that's just my humour. But at least Cooper Webster at this stage is looking for his chance now to really set this start alight. They want to shake the two pursuit cars behind as quickly as possible, so they've got to be really alert to that coordination. They wait under the Fox Factory Bridge. What point are you going? And this is a long, long wait, and they are really risking it here. And through the final corner, we finally get ourselves back going here. To lap 8 we go here of 25. The top 3 look pretty good as they move forward. James Scott thought about things in towards turn 1, not going to get there. Some side-by-side is Corey Shepard and Job Stewart at it for position. Then you got Warren down, Maloney, all there, trying to figure out where they need to be. Brady Myers as well in that as they go through. What a train we have as they charge on through. Probably the happiest driver of all of them that this battle's going on for 8th place is the driver in 7th, Richard Hampstead. Emphasis to attack.
Yeah, indeed. He's already getting a good run on Joshua Anderson on the run up to turn 6. He's going to stay behind for the time being, though. Just stay behind and get the run down the back stretch. Try and get a leg up on Andrew Gilliam and Griffin Gardner, who are keeping the Altus trio honest. Well, actually 2 of them, because Cooper Webster has jetted away from Jordan Caruso and James Scott. You see the gap there.
Yeah, you absolutely can. It looks very, very stark. A few issues in the back. Corey Preston not very happy over the radio. He'll get done for the expletives there as he went through. As we got battling just in front. That's Ratu versus Hanlon as they go down the hill on the brakes into the final couple corners. There's Jake Burton being shepherded away by one Mr. Jordan Ross, and that'll be another one going through. That'll be Hobbo 88 on the 8, getting the move done. So 3/8, why not? It's the best number in Australian motorsport, some would say, as that move gets itself done. But Burton's going to come straight back at it as they go through a lot of lock-up smoke through 1, and now the 9.5 car wants in.
Absolutely, that 9.5 car right in the midst of things. And that is Aaron Dodd behind them. Zachary Hanlon trying his best to stay ahead of the Zuva car there. Well, he's managed to work out all right there with a big lock-up from Brett Loxton into turn 3. But Hampstead and Shepard, looks like Shepard's starting to come back at him. Oh, hello, side-by-side between the Trans-Tasman teammates. That is Ethan Warren making his way past.
He's not there yet. Myers has done well on the exit. Try and get things going. Madison Down's getting himself boxed in. Oh, he's 2 tires on the grass. Is Madison Down? He's really in a scrap right now, and he knows it as he goes through towards 10A, 10B, right of 9. Myers is going to have to defend this one quite carefully here, as on the brakes, it will be 1 position. Will it be 2? Mads down the inside, locking up slightly, drifting out wide. It will check everybody up, and he may lose that place again
to Ethan Warren, and now Jake Maloney will want in, and will Dyson, and will Stemberg. 5 Trans-Tasman cars in 6.
Wow, I mean, the only problem is it's not up at the front of the field where they want to be. Down goes for the move on Warren at turn 1, but Ethan gets the power down nicely around the outside. Madison's going to have to try and push this into turn 3. No, he's just going to slot behind. I don't think he's very happy with how things have been going here. He can feel that second place in the championship and the gap to Richard Hampstead in the standings slipping further and further afield.
When was the last time, Reece, you saw Madison Down fighting it hard for 11th place?
Almost never. Almost never. I can only think of maybe 2 occasions in the last couple of years that's happened. It's certainly something that's very bizarre and we don't see.
Madison Downs just run it off the road at 6, and that's going to open the door now for Maloney to attack. It's on behind as well. You've got Emily Jones there in the battle of the Joneses with Kobe Jones and Kurt Stemberg trying to find their way through as well. So 2 brilliant battles on the back stretch as they look to charge their way down into no looks at moves then as they go through down ahead of Maloney, but there is Stemberg trying to keep it in against Emily Jones. Kobe Jones having to check up slightly and now needs to drive off the exit. Coxhead gets booked as well.
So Stenny has to slot back in behind, and now right on the rear bumper of Stenny is Kobe Jones. Doesn't look like that's going to translate to run at turn 1 as good as me. Corey Shepard trying to put a move on Richard Hampstead there. Slight contact. Oh, no. Careful. Oh, they just managed to keep that together. Job Stewart, I think he needs to rein it in a little.
I think he does as well. Had a little bit of a misdemeanor earlier on with the racing that came along. Spin on the final lap with Jordan Ross. So he's got to be very alert. They're losing time now to Josh Anderson, who's on the back of Andrew Gilliam in the fight for 5th place. So that will still be going on. Top 3, of course, all still Altus at this stage. Webster, Caruso, Scott as things go. But now you've got those big battles coming on. Look at Anderson. He really wants to recover this one back here in terms of this racing. He's there in that 6th position. He wants to go out there. He wants to attack. He wants the top 5 here away from Andrew Gilliam.
Is there going to be a move down at 10A? A slight look there from Anderson, but nothing doing for him there. Gilliam staying resolute, but he's starting to fall back from his teammate Griffin Gardner just up ahead. And it looks like the Altus pairing, trio, have spaced themselves out. It's looking like a good move incoming potentially here for Anderson, but Gilliam still keeping it nice and quick through turn 1. He's not opening the door at all.
Not at all, and that's going to be very difficult to prise open here against Andrew Gilliam for Joshua Anderson. He knows he's got work to do, and he knows that he is going to be running out of time soon to get it done, because we are at the halfway stage now of this race. Every position mattering up and down the orders here as drivers look to try and get themselves situated. Some good gains up through the field as well as they all try and figure out their places right now and gain all those important points out there on track. There is Jake Burton behind the 033 machine of Damien Johnstone. Now, when was the last time you saw Jake Burton fighting it out for P20 in a race?
Yeah, I'd have to go something like 4 or 5 years, maybe even 6 for that to happen, because Jake Burton has been competing very well in the top half of the field. Oh my goodness, Anderson got way crossed up in the braking zone at 10A, so Gilliam retakes the place, and through goes Hampstead and Shepard.
Through they go, and that's good work as they figured it out, and now Shepard looking to immediately attack through the final corner, and a little bit in the grass goes Richard Hampstead. He'll drop the place. Anderson is there now. So too, as they go side by side, Warren, Stewart and Myers. They go through down absolutely nowhere in comparison as he's now behind Andrew Dyson, and there's contact there at 3 between Stewart and Myers, I think it was there. So more dramas they go through. They are getting the elbows out, and I'd say those Trans-Tasman drivers are fighting with absolutely everything.
Yeah, well, no team orders at Trans-Tasman Racing. That is the way it goes, and weaving in the rear mirrors of Brady Myers is Ethan Warren. Job Stewart is very good at the moment, holding on to all of this. Richard Hampstead starting to lose out to Corey Shepard. There's something like 4 or 5 car lengths between them at the moment, so Hampstead's going to have to start working hard if he wants to try and catch back up to the likes of Griffin Gardner and Andrew Gilliam, the long line of mostly Trans-Tasman Racing Commodores making their way down to the braking zone. A late move there from Brady Myers. He turns Job Stewart and he goes through the gravel trap. Stewart, though, filing back onto the circuit, and Corey Shepard just avoiding getting into the back of him.
Oh, this is awkward now. This is awkward now. On that one as they go through. They're going to come together. Stewart in the grass. Look at Dyson. They're full wide. They're full wide. There's contact. Stewart again as they go through. Socail. More contact as they go through. Was that Madison down? It was Madison down, searching a bit too aggressive. Through there, we'll lose more places. Myers as well going down the order. A huge moment. And Coxhead getting turned almost by Madison.
Oh, goodness me, that was a very messy few corners for all involved. Virtual Racing School replay, but I don't know how long we're going to be able to stay on it because the action, it just seems to be coming thick and fast here. So this all started when Job Stewart was turned almost by Brady Myers. Just a bit too much bumper there. Stewart comes on, Shepard just avoids him, and then Stewart has to try and get up to speed again. But when they go through the final corner, that's when it all goes wrong.
Yeah, there you can see he gets in the grass. Dyson, the aggressor, pushing it 4 wide. Then there's contact as they go through in towards 1. Madison down, trying to search for the inside. There's no room. Myers just spreads him across the outside of the circuit. And both drivers dropping a whole heap of positions as they go through. Still some side-by-side as we go back live. Hampstead going round the outside then of Corey Shepard. Anderson in the mix as well. Welcome to the Trans-Tasman Sandwich. Can I take your order, please? As now Corey Shepard will be looking behind Anderson, trying to pick it to the inside. Headlights on here at Road Atlanta. And a little look again to the inside as, they come together. Tempers have very much flared here at Road Atlanta. It's desperation mode except for the front 4.
This is absolute chaos back in the field. I don't know where to look. There's so much going on right now. Headlights on, elbows out, indeed. This is fantastic stuff, at least from a spectator's perspective. I certainly wouldn't want to be one of the drivers in this situation as everyone tries to go through the S's. Stewart and Dyson are together, as well as, Zachary Hanlon battling very hard with one of the Premier Racing Team cars. I think that's Brian Borg.
He's also made contact over this lap with Kyle George, thrown him off the road a little bit. Battle continues, though, as they go towards this next section of track to 10A, 10B. Corey Shepard, Josh Anderson, Ethan Warren now is behind in this group. So they have got their focus. Top 3, they're wondering what on earth's going on right now because they're just having a calm race out there at the front on the brakes. Into the lefts and the rights they come along once again. No chances of a move from any angle, it seems, as they descend down the hill. Ethan Warren trying to position himself then for a run through the final corner, and he's got a really good run on top of that. Is it going to be half defended? It is half defended as they head to 1, but there was never a look at the move. And another shot to the back then of the Mr. Antenna car, just keeps it on the island. Ethan Warren is probing, but he can't quite find a way through just yet. Talk about gainers right now. You've got loads of gainers through the field. That's Chris Coxhead dropping a couple places. Side by side with Burton, and Burton forcing his way through, almost brute forcing a way through.
Wow, the amount of corrections that Chris Coxhead has had to make in this race. First with contact from behind by Madison Down, then contact from behind by Burton. He has absolutely been in the wars. It's amazing his car doesn't have more dents in it as Ben Christensen heavily into the wall. That was contact with another damaged car there.
So Christensen in the wall. I wonder if we can have a look and see his reaction right now. And no, he's definitely. Oh, he's punched the wheel. Oh, so much frustration. He's punched the wheel out there, and that should be a safety car. Look how unsafe that is out there on circuit. No, he's got it going again. Virtual Racing School replay then as a penalty comes in for Job Stewart. So this is how Christensen tries to go. He's already got the damage to the rear as he tries to get by the 95017 machine. Then as they go to, sorry, that's the Premier Racing Team car there of the 017. As they go on through into the lefts and rights, and it's just a horrible little hit. Tries to gather it up again as he goes through, and is it on the rejoin that he takes the hit through? And is it going to be the Zuva Racing car? He just keeps it out of the way and throws it in the wall.
That's a big shame there for Ben Christensen. He'll be very frustrated with that. It looked like either Brian Borg or Kyle George had something to do with that. So no wonder he's unhappy. And yeah, okay. So the Race on Oz car did make contact with him there.
It was Tyler Blackburn, the Super Split 2 winner, finding himself in all sorts of trouble. We go back to live. Reese Gardner has just given the understatement of the year, ladies and gentlemen, that Ben Christensen is very frustrated. We saw that. He punched the steering wheel, for goodness sake. But at least at this moment, Ethan Warren has Corey Shepard in sight. Jake Maloney there as well in terms of this battle going on, and it is worth pointing out that every position matters here. Warren with a good run, see damage to the left rear quarter panel, scraping on the side there of the Mr. Antenna car. Here comes the move on the outside from Ethan Warren. Has he got the move all sorted down at the hairpin, the 10A10B section, sorry? Yes, he does, but there's no drive on the exit there for Corey Shepard. Here comes Maloney.
Maloney up the inside. Shepard has to stay wide, gets onto the grass, out of the final turn. It's always heart-in-mouth stuff at that section, but looks like Maloney making his way through there, and that's going to be shuffled back to 10th place for Corey Shepard. He's still one up from where he started, though. Back in the field, though, things are still going on here. Kenneth Latta and Tom Freer.
Yep, this is the fight for 25th position on the road right now. Tom Freer is certainly hoping that his race can do a little bit better. He's down 2 at the moment from where he has started out, and there'll be a lot more on the horizon to come along with all these positions to work out. Worth keeping an eye on Madison Down as well. He's fought his way back to 15th. He's on the back of the train here of Kobe Jones, Kurt Stemberg, and Emily Jones as well. So a lot of work being done at this stage to try and gain those places back. And there is Job Stewart down in 33rd after the penalty that he picked up then for the unsafe re-entry back onto circuit. I wouldn't say it was the re-entry that got him, it was the slowdown that did. The re-entry, I would have said there, Reese, was fine. It was the slowdown that caused all the accident.
Well, maybe it's for the re-entry where Corey Shepard almost wiped him out. It wasn't exactly at the last turn, but the turn before.
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the case then, as he gets through a very wounded Brett Loxton in the Zuva car then getting through. Worth noting that 2nd and 3rd are still pretty close out there on circuit as we look at Mr. Antenna car. There is Jordan Caruso holding off James Scott. Now, we know Caruso struggled to get into race 1. He was making a drive back from driver coaching at Phillip Island circuit in Cowes, Victoria. And ultimately then, it's going to be a case then for him of get as much as you can out of this race, because he'll be only scoring half points.
Indeed. I mean, he'll still be able to pick up a good amount of points for 2nd place, so that'll help him. Unfortunately, it might mean that he's going to slip out of the top 10 in the championship standings, so not a great round for Jordan Caruso all up, but if he can stand on the podium at least once with his Altus teammates, then I'm sure he will be satisfied. The Exto Gaming cars there running line astern, Misters Ratu and Preston, not necessarily in that order. Preston, of course, leading Ratu. But you see now, after all of that chaos over the last couple of laps, the field has spread out into its own little battle groups. We're seeing packs of 2, packs of 3, packs of 4 cars forming at the moment. So hopefully now things have calmed down a little bit.
They certainly have. We've got 6th and 7th out there. Anderson versus Hamstead, as they'll be fighting it out for place. And we've had all the nasties in the middle. And now Madison Down going for the inside here against Kobe Jones. Isn't going to get there at this stage. That was a bit of a nice panoramic camera that we've got out there on track. But Madison Down is desperate for places right now. He knows he is seeing that championship gap open out massively. It's almost like he has had an iceberg tear through a Titanic-like hull of his race at this stage, and he wants to try and gain that back ASAP. Kobe Jones, he's not going to give this one up. He knows he's racing a 2-time champion here of SCOPS in the form of Madison Down. He will want to prove himself.
Yeah, he will indeed. Madison Down, also a 10-time iRacing Official Supercars Series champion too. He's gotten a good run on Kobe Jones, though, coming out of turn 7. Jones just got a little bit too crossed up over the curbs, so Down has the momentum coming down the straight. Jones might be able to fight him in the braking zone here, though. No, he lifts off and lets the double champion go. So now Madison can focus forward on his teammate Kurt Stemberg. former teammate and still technically working in a technical partnership, Emily Jones, as we look at the Synergy cars and the Exto Gaming cars making their way around the circuit. Preston and Ratu currently holding on to 23rd and 24th. Corey Preston has made up a huge amount of positions. He is up 14, Ratu up 10.
Yeah, so good work by Corey Preston here, despite all of the work. He will get some penalty points on the license, of course, from earlier on, the expletives over the radio that we did not broadcast over to you. But there is Kurt Stemberg, ever the character, I would say, in the field, one which can be quite decisive in terms of whether you like him or hate him. I'd say he's a Vegemite-style driver out there right now as he makes his way through the right of turn number 6 behind Emily Jones, and she, of course, one of the most popular Twitch streamers of iRacing out there in the world. She is on the same level, you would say, Reese, of a Matt Malone or a Jimmy Broadbent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been amazing to see how much Emily Jones's career has taken off in the last few years, and she's a very good representative for women in sim racing and in motorsport in general, I'd say, and doing very well at the moment here in the SCOPS field. She'll be ruining the fact that she wasn't able to capitalize on her 8th place starting position, and she is carrying a bit of damage, but still keeping it up in 12th place and holding off 2 Trans-Tasman Racing drivers. She could be proud of that.
She certainly can. Of course, Madison down and Kurt Stemberg just behind her at this moment in time. So work to be done. You've got Maloney now through on Corey Shepard as well. So Shepard back down to 10th and Andrew Dyson trying to stay with to move up inside then that top 10 and get another consistent point. So, and this is the Andrew Dyson. That is why he is 8th place in the championship, because again, it is consistent finish in and around that top 10.
Absolutely. I mean, Andrew Dyson first showed us what he could do last year at Montreal when he won in Split 2. And now he's a regular competitor in Split 1, and he's been able to capitalize on others' mistakes and make his way up the field in most races. And it seems, for the moment anyway, he is gaining ever so slightly on Corey Shepard and Jake Maloney. I reckon he could be a factor in their battle in the next lap or so. But again, there's not much time to go. Up the front, they're about to cross the line to make it 3 laps to go.
Yeah, and it is Cooper Webster out in front by 1.2 seconds and could be on course for the double here today. That is the 47 machine, and it's now full defense mode right now for Kurt Stemberg, because look at this. Kobe Jones trying to box in the reigning champion, and he's going to lunge for it. He's going to get 2 for 1. Oh, this is a wonderful move by Kobe. He's going to force Stemberg out on the outside, and that is Kobe Jones making my move of the race.
Excellent stuff there from Kobe. Very opportunistic. Stemberg, of course, not getting the best of runs out of the final turn. Virtual Racing School replay then, so we can take a look at what happened, and oh my goodness, that is the reason why. Kurt Stemberg, yeah, looks like there was contact between the teammates there. Madison down, getting into the rear of Stenny.
Rule 1 of sim racing, do not hit your teammate. Rule 2 of sim racing, do not hit your teammate. You say it louder. And that is why Madison down ultimately did not take that place away from Kurt Stemberg, and why Kobe Jones picked up 2 for the troubles. Now you've got Myers on the back and Burton and Briggs, and suddenly you've got an incredible train fighting out there for the top 15 with what is going to be 2 laps to go at the line.
Brady Myers trying to make a move on Madison down into 10A and 10B. As we go back live, the move is done, and it looks like he's going to slot ahead, but down, getting the inside exit. Let's see if that works out for him through the final turn. They're going to run side by side and give Jake Burton one heck of a show here. Oh, straight off the track there goes Brady Myers, and Jake Burton looking to take advantage.
Absolutely, and Burton, of course, a former Trans-Tasman member, getting that move sorted. Briggs there, waiting with, I would say, salivating chops behind in this battle going through. Stemberg not giving up, of course, either on Kobe Jones. The other battles out there on track have looked like they've fallen away a little bit. Worth noting that Andrew Gilliam has moved up into 4th position, has got through on Griffin Gardner, so they have exchanged pleasantries. Gilliam now up into 4th, Gardner down into 5th with a lap and a half to go.
Good stuff there from Andrew Gilliam. He can make good on his promises from race 1, but this battle is still continuing with Kobe Jones up at the head of it in 13th place. This is fantastic racing right here at the end. He's still got Stemberg down in hot pursuit. He's got Burton, Myers, and Adam Briggs right on the end of this. And the DPR number 72 is up the inside. Tries Kurt Stemberg. Kobe just has to delay his turn in slightly. And Stenny might take advantage of this. Straighter exit.
And on to the final lap we go as they fight for 30. Jones on the outside, struggling to put the power down. Goes in the grass. Look at that. Opportunistic down the inside. Madison Down wasn't taking no for an answer. Oh, they're going to come together. That's going to be Burton. He's going to get into the side of Jones. And that there was the shot from behind there from Brady Myers trying to get through. Oh, and almost contact turns. They go through. That was Jones nearly turning Myers. They go through. Burton now attacking Madison. Kurt Stemberg down the hill. You're not going to get it done at the S's section on the road. Hampstead's got really close as well here. The championship leader to Griffin Gardner in 5th place, but is not quite in the realms to attack because Andrew Gilliam's got the draft in front. 2 corners remain or so for Cooper Webster up in front. We keep our eyes, of course, at least for a little bit here with Richard Hampstead, but coming over the crest under the Fox Factory Bridge and down the hill for the final time at the double. He takes the clean sweep. Not only is it a win for Cooper Webster, it's the first ever lock for Altus Esports, and it will be Gilliam just holding off 4th place over the line.
Wow. And I think that is the first time this season that we've had no Trans-Tasman cars in the top 5. What an incredible finish. And it looks like that's how that battle's going to work out, as there's more jostling back of the pack. Job Stewart getting into Brian Borg there and getting a bit of rear end as well from Kyle George for his troubles. But that is how that's going to work out between them. The Altus team are flying in formation as these guys cross the line. And I think big celebrations for the white, blue, and orange machines here at Altus Esports, with Jake Maloney joining them. Wow, what a shot that is! They've worked hard for this one.
They absolutely did. Cooper Webster, 2 victories here tonight. Every reason to be excited. Of course, Caruso does good in the damage recovery. James Scott will take buoyant results then for his championship, as we'll take a look at the official classified results then here from Road Atlanta, with the wonderful battling that we've had going forward here today up and down the order. It was a testament to behold. Tempers really rose here as we go through, and hopefully we'll get those results in the next couple of moments, because everything is just chipping out at the moment here over the course of our feed. But Cooper Webster then takes the victory in 34 minutes and 44 seconds and wins by 1.8, getting it done at the double, this time over his other teammate, Jordan Caruso, finishing off in 2nd after a very hectic drive to get back for this 2nd race. 3rd position will go to James Scott, making it the first ever time that we have had the Altus Esports lockout of the podium here in SCOPS. Andrew Gilliam finishes off in 4th place. A very good run from him. And Griffin Gardner, give him a shout out. He probably deserves driver of the day today for just how good he was there in P number 5. Richard Hampstead picks up more points in the championship. He finishes it off in P6 with 7th going to Josh Anderson. Ethan Warren finishing it off in 8th with Jake Maloney 9th. And Corey Shepard in the Mr. Antenna Premier Racing Team car rounding out the top 10.
Andrew Dyson making up 4 places to finish 11th place. Emily Jones comes home 12th. Madison Down won't be too happy with how things have panned out in this race for him. He only has to settle for 13th place when really he should have been competing up there in the top 5. Kurt Stemberg and Jake Burton round out the top 15, with Brady Myers and Kobe Jones 16th and 17th. The top 20 rounded out by Adam Briggs, Jordan Ross, and Brenton Hobson.
The good news for Madison Down, this will probably be one of his drop rounds as he looks at things, all things considered. Damien Johnstone then finishes 21st with Chris Coxhead there in 22nd. Bradley Ratu then creates a very nice Exto Gaming sandwich with Tom Freer as the filling to Corey Preston, the bottom end of that sandwich. Kenneth Latter finishes off in 26th with a whole slew of cars coming towards the end behind him. Brian Borg, Job Stewart, Kyle George in the United Sim Sports car, and then Sean Linsell as well, the other Alco Holder DPR car, teammate to Kenny Latter.
Tyler Blackburn, Split 2 winner, comes home 31st once again tonight, with Zachary Hanlon finishing up behind him, 1.6 seconds back. Brett Loxton comes home in 33rd. Damon Mulqueen started from the back, but making up 6 spots to finish 34th. Aaron Dodd and Hayden Harrison finishing 35th and 36th. Justin Wallace is the final classified car, and then we get into retirement territory. Lee Ellis classified 4 laps down. Glenn Postlethwaite and Ben Christensen there, rounding out the 40, with Dylan Rudd ultimately not making it even 2 laps into this one.
Yeah, so disasters there, of course, and on top of that, yeah, you've got all of the work there, Dylan Rudd in trouble, so that's sometimes the breaks that we find around the work that we got going on. We've got drivers immediately in here for interview. We'll drag them in right now. Cooper Webster, though, we have to go and have a conversation with him first and foremost. A double victory here today at this wonderful, wonderful Road Atlanta circuit. Cooper, that will be a huge kick of confidence for you. It seemed like your Altus car was head and shoulders above the rest of the field all night long. And, you know, with the only exception of a poor start in race 1 and qualifying the car in second in race 2, that would be about as close to a perfect evening as you were hoping for.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was very surprised with my pace this weekend, even through pre-qualifying as well. I felt like I didn't know if the TTR boys were on race setups or I was on qual, like how good my pace was. But yeah, I think I worked really hard this round, and I guess the results showed then how hard Altus worked this round. But yeah, that first qualifying, that lap was real spot on. I don't remember if I got a draft, but it was really good. And then that first race, I dropped the wrong clutch pedal on the start and stalled, and so I got the heart racing there before the start, and I was lucky not to, fall all the way back. But I got my way back up, and yeah, James and I worked as best we could to get a gap before I passed him on the rest of the field, and just worked as good as we could as a team. And yeah, so I'm super stoked with the result this round. I think this is by far my best SCOPS round ever, so yeah.
Well, definitely your best SCOPS round by a long stretch of the imagination. But now you're starting to meld the two careers, so to speak, Cooper. Of course, you've got that element of your virtual here, the 2 victories here today. And then, of course, you've got your actual racing career that you put on top of that. How do the two fall hand in hand for you? How do you take the experiences from the real world into the virtual, and how do you take the experiences from the virtual into the real?
First thing I would say is probably sim racing is harder, as in to be like at the very top of your game than in real life, as I feel like you don't get the same feel as you do in the real car as you do in sim racing. But I think the stress levels and the racecraft you develop in sim racing 100% translates to the real world. But yeah, I think sim racing does help the real thing, and I'm just going to keep doing it.
Awesome, keep doing it. Will we, though, see you over in June at Donington Park? It's a track that's very, very similar here to Road Atlanta, and if anything's to go by the pace that Altus have had here today, are you now the team to beat?
I would like to hope so. I definitely think we're taking it to TTR now. We did struggle as a team in the first couple of rounds, but I think just a few tweaks with the setup and some hard training, long hours is really going to pay off. So this is just another boost for the rest of the season. So I can't wait to finish off strong.
Well, the floor is yours, Cooper. Shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank for what is a wonderful, wonderful set of victories here today.
Yeah, first of all, Simon for all his help, Logitech G, Astro, Cube Controls, Liveries, Own 3D, Race Tech, Race Seats, Virtual Racing School, and Sam Blacklock Media.
Yeah, no worries at all then. Work to be done then. Of course, that was concocted, but a wonderful bit of work that was from Altus Esports. The victory overall for Cooper Webster. Reese, I believe you have found the driver who came home second in that second race, that being Jordan Caruso.
Indeed, I have. Jordan Caruso joins us in the commentary box now. Jordan, you got your night off to a bit of a late start with some real-life commitments, but hey, qualified third, finished second. Not a bad run.
Yeah, that's it. After the first quali, I knew that the car had pace. Like Cooper and James were right up there, so I knew if I just sort of got comfortable in the sim again after a few days out of it, then I could be up there and put together a lap. I didn't feel quite as comfortable as I sort of would have hoped, but no, stoked for the team. It was such a great result.
Yeah, certainly was, and the first time in SCOPS history that Altus Esports have locked out a podium. So I think, unfortunately, you did miss out on some big championship points tonight, missing race 1, but you can probably come away with this knowing that you still got what it takes to fight in that top 10, maybe even top 5 in the championship if this form continues.
Yeah, 100%. Unfortunately, that's sort of how it goes, and the sort of real life racing has to take priority, I guess. But as long as I can keep doing as many rounds as I possibly can, and my position in the championship, I guess I'm not too fussed about. As long as we can sort of consistently show that, we've got the pace to be right up there, then I'll be pretty happy with that.
Well, nonetheless, I guess Sperry asked Cooper about his balancing of sim racing and real life. How is it from your perspective? How do you compare your virtual racing to your real life exploits?
I think the commitment to both is just as much. Like I'm as motivated to be as good as I can on the sim as I am in real life. So far this year, real racing's been really slow. Like I haven't really done anything. But I mean, yeah, I guess real life racing sort of has to take priority, but that doesn't take away the importance of sim racing at all.
Certainly not, and I think you can be very proud of your performance here in race 2 tonight here at Road Atlanta. Before we let you go, is there anyone that you'd like to thank?
I'm sure Cooper got all the sponsors, so I'll just leave that, but I guess thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast, all the other drivers, and amazing work to Cooper. You're awesome, and same to James.
Indeed, Jordan Caruso there finishing second. Speaking of James Scott, Sperry, you've got him.
I certainly do, James. That is probably a set of races for you that gets everything you want back on track in terms of putting together a consistent championship push. You've put a couple of, I would say, not the greatest results on the board, but this is the sort of result that almost is like the kickstart for you.
Yeah, 100%. Some of the rounds I've had earlier in the season haven't gone quite to plan. But in saying that, I think Oran Park and here we've made a massive step forward as a team, and we're working really well together to keep that going.
And that focus has really come in for you. 2 podiums, 1-2 and a 1-2-3. How surprised were you seeing Trans-Tasman so far off the pace and ultimately tripping up over each other in that second race?
Yeah, I think anytime TTR's off the pace comes as a little bit of a surprise, but just purely because of all the high-class drivers they've got in that team, they're always going to be there or thereabouts. But yeah, I think they all know that they weren't quite on the pace tonight, but I'm sure come next round they'll be right up there again.
Evolution of setup then, it seems, going to Donington Park, and it's been a long time since we've seen this in SCOPS, but at least in other series you've had that ability to go out there and to trial the track and see how it goes. How are you feeling about going to Donington Park?
Yeah, Donington definitely should be a good race. Me personally, I really enjoy the track. It's not used very much in many series that the V8 does, so it'll be interesting to see how everyone adapts to the track, and hopefully we can put on another good show like tonight.
Floor is yours, James. Shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Yeah, obviously all the guys at Altus Esports. We've been working really hard to try and get back up the front, and I think we're slowly starting to do that. Although I'm sure there's still some more to come yet. And obviously our great partners as well, we couldn't do without them. Logitech G, Astro Gaming, Cube Controls, Own 3D, Race Tech Seats, and Virtual Racing School, and also Sam Blacklock Media.
No worries at all there. James Scott, 3rd position overall. But Reese, what a first third of the season we have had, and the scales all of a sudden tip as we think about Donington Park on the 3rd to the 6th of June.
Yeah, absolutely. Donington Park taking place in a few weeks' time, and I'm looking forward to it. Altus Esports have certainly shown their hand here, and with Trans-Tasman Racing not having the most optimal round here tonight, they're going to be licking their wounds, and they'll be going back into HQ and thinking about how they're going to tackle Donington. I think we well and truly have a Teams Championship battle on our hands if this race is anything to go by.
We have an everything battle on our hands if things are to go by from this 5th round of racing. The only place you can catch V8SCOPS in its entirety in broadcast form is with us at SimSpeed TV. If you haven't had the chance already, you can like, you can share, and you can subscribe for more amazing content brought to you by the team here at SimSpeed. But a massive thanks has to go to Oceanic Sim Racing running this event, to Too Easy Finance, and of course the Virtual Racing School, who not only are titled sponsor here of V8SCOPS 2021, but also are on the replays here for us at SimSpeed TV for the year. We love to see them bringing themselves along, from the likes, of course, of Reese Gardner alongside me, Jay Kennedy on the cameras for us here today. My name's been Jake Sperry, and the ball is dropped by Trans-Tasman. A wild and crazy race for them, where all of the insecurities came out and that desperate neediness for success really reared its head. But they now know that they really are in a championship. Complacency, maybe? Who knows? But it is Altus now who set the form guide heading to Donington Park. It's not often that they get to lock out the podium, but if any place you can try and get it back to back, Donington is the next port of call.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney! Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top. Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God. God, what?